Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast available on your favorite podcast app. This is our annual episode where we dive into one of the largest film festivals in the world, the South by Southwest Film and TV Festival, complete with info from behind the scenes, reviews of over 25 film and episodic premieres, including Another Simple Favor and Death of a Unicorn, and a whole lot more. Again, this is the 2025 South by Southwest Film and TV Festival recap, review, super show, whatever you want to call it. Let's get on with the show. All right, my name is Aaron Peterson, and also here is Amanda Sink.
Hello, hello.
Today, we're going to talk exclusively about the South by Southwest Film and TV Festival. If you've listened to our previous episodes, very similar. We're going to kind of explain what it is before we get into the nuts and bolts of it all. Also, it's commonly known by its nickname, South by. What the festival is, how it works, and especially what movies we saw that you should keep an eye out for. And I saw a lot of indies this year.
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of variety. So South by Southwest is one of the largest festivals in the country, and it encompasses film, TV, music, interactive media, education. There are so many different components to South by. So we'll only be talking about the film and TV festival portion, which showcases just about every type of genre that you could imagine, which is one of the really great things about South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. And they also offer keynote speakers, special sessions, panels with various parties in the industry, like maybe The Last of Us and Pedro Pascal.
You did get to see him. Yes.
Did you
call him your daddy or whatever the hell it is?
I wish.
The internet calls
if I was
him?
Close enough, I would have.
Okay. It's just weird, but go ahead.
There's also a trade show. So Aaron and I did get to peruse around that this year, and that was fun too.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool art there at the trade show. There's like a back section where it seems like those are more independent vendors, I would say, less corporate sponsors, and there's a lot of artwork, just really creative, visionary artwork.
Very impressive stuff back there, for
very
sure.
Much so. And we are both just hot off of South by, so if we at all seem exhausted, it's because we are. It was a long time. I think this is the longest trip we've ever taken there. We went the full week. And there's just so much to do. Still so much to do.
And Amanda was on time to her movies.
Most of the time.
Amanda was on,
yeah.
I think almost every time.
Oh, well, the fact that you
I got into everything.
You had to think
especially
about
when I didn't listen to you, unlike last year.
That's true. It's really irritating that she shows up 30 seconds before something starts and finds her way in. I get there 3 hours before, and they're like, I don't know if you're going to make it, guy. Like, what? This isn't right.
Female privilege, question mark?
I don't know what it is. I think it's just luck. Just, you got better luck than I do. That's what it is.
Yeah, let's hope for it.
In fact, you got to meet Dennis Quaid.
I did.
You did?
I did.
We'll talk about that later.
It was really cool, yeah.
We'll talk about that later. And I got to meet Jenna Ortega. I'll talk about that on the South by Southwest episode in Patreon. Okay, let's move
You can
on.
tell the differences
maybe.
in the interactions just from where they're going to be at.
Little different. All right, so let's get into it. How was South by this year for you?
It was different, and I think we can't discount the fact that it was different. Some things good different, some things not as preferable different. Mm-hmm. And I won't get into as much about that, but definitely a lot of changes. I did like the change that they've made to how Q&As are done. So for context for anybody who's not been to the festival or listened to episodes in the past, it used to be kind of like anybody in the audience could walk up to the microphone and ask a question to the film cast and crew or TV cast and crew.
Yeah, who are generally there, by the way, we should say. For almost all of these premieres, the cast and crew are typically there.
Yeah, and that's also, one of the really exciting pieces of South by is watching the film premiere with the creators and cast
stars
of. Yep. So, what was I saying?
The Q&A. Sorry.
Oh, the Q&A.
I totally derailed you, and you are welcome for that.
So for the Q&A, what they did different this year, and they started making that transition last year because Claudette is the new head, I'm guessing, is where some of this originates from. That's, a perfect time to start making some of those transitions to what you feel is the head of the festival you want to see. Mm-hmm. And so now she has pre-written questions that the entire cast and crew who are up on stage are prepped on. So they have, honestly better answers most of the time than when you would have somebody who would go up to the microphone and ask their question, or more often than not, just make a statement. And that was the downfall of the Q&A format before. It was really awesome because it kept it very inclusive and inviting, which is something I've always admired about South by. But when you have people who don't actually take the time to think about what they're going to ask and make it meaningful, or they get too personal, or they just go up there to make a statement, it feels like a waste of time, and it feels like a waste of their time as the creators and stars of the premiere. So what they've done this year, you know, like I said, have it all pre-formatted. They're all up on stage. It all comes through whoever the
moderator
is. Yeah. And I liked it. I was a little hesitant last year when I saw kind of like a mix of the transition, but this year I think they did a really great job of setting you up for good information that was valuable to take out of it.
Yeah, and I think if you use the QR code at the beginning, you can ask questions. They might introduce some of those, but they proof them first, right? Like, so everything is being cross-checked to make sure there isn't, like you said, a diatribe of, you know, I grew up watching you and you're my favorite. And then that's it. When we're trying to, you know, we've got 10 minutes with the cast and crew and they just delivered this movie and you want to tell them about your childhood. Don't get me wrong. I get the fan experience. That's part of the benefit of going to South by, but it also kind of drags from everyone else's experience when you're trying to find out more about this particular project.
Yeah, the fan experience can't be the only experience, right?
Right. And if you've ever been to a Comic-Con or a con of any kind, you know what we're talking about. It can derail pretty quick. Sometimes one person can hog the microphone for half of the Q&A because they're not thinking of anybody else. It's their moment. They want to take their moment to talk to whichever star they're a big fan of.
The other thing that I really liked and took away as, I guess we'll call it a note, is...
Oh, industry term. Look at you.
The last few years, I feel like you and I have come away with one of the big, I guess we'll call it Hollywood blockbuster movies being one of our favorites, which it's not to say that it shouldn't be. Those have earned it. They had their right.
Sure.
But to have both of us have two indie films that I guess we'll say beat out the big blockbusters in our mind, that's huge. That means you do have a good selection of indie films coming forward, great filmmakers with great visions and the ability to convey that wonderfully. So that was interesting to me to see how we scored those films differently. Now, I will say, I think that there was a little less overall enjoyment from people across the board. I heard more mixed messages, I guess, this year than I'm used to hearing about films. And that could be just because of the content. It could be because of the way that they're made. I don't know, whatever it is.
I didn't either. I had the opposite. I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I had the opposite. So maybe you're just going to the wrong ones. I don't know what to
I'm going to the wrong line.
Tell you. No, I mean, there were some concerns about the process changes. And we'll kind of talk about those at the end because I don't want to discourage anyone from going. I think this is a great festival. It's still my favorite film festival by far. There were a couple changes that made it more difficult to see.
To keep inclusion between the different levels. Yeah,
it makes it difficult to cover as many films as we would like because there's more waiting in line. And I get it. You know, it's something you shouldn't really complain about. I mean, it's still an awesome trip and a very entertaining one and a lot of spectacle and cool adventures along the way. It does just impact your overall trip, and it's different than it has been in recent years. And we'll talk about it more at the end. And so there were some issues, I think, with that. But overall, on the movie side, I didn't see many movies that I didn't really at least enjoy.
Well, I'm saying, too,
One was terrible. I'll give you one was terrible. I'll give you a little hint. One was terrible.
We saw that one together.
Yes, we saw that one together.
How are we... Is this going to be an explicit episode then because of the title of the film?
I'm not giving them... You're giving too much away. Just wait.
I know. Sorry.
But no, when I'm talking to people in line, because that is always my favorite part about going to South by, is waiting in line with people. In the past, it's getting more where people are just looking at their phones or creating content, a lot of influencers. That takes away from it a little bit. But if you're able to find people in lines that you can talk to and discuss, you get a lot of great recommendations. You get a lot of great feedback. You just that's when you get the feel of the festival. And mine was mostly positive. A lot of movies that people loved, I had actually seen and loved as well, or they turned me on to a couple of ones that I weren't even on my radar that I went and checked out. Like Friendship wasn't even on my radar, and it ended up being just a highlight of the festival. It was just so funny, and I liked it more than Another Simple Favor. Like, I'm just telling you, it's very funny.
Ironically, movie. I'm pretty sure the same time Friendship was occurring, which is a Paul Rudd movie, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of the two he had at the festival. And which is weird because normally there's a lot more like talk around celebrities in the movies that they have. But I feel like all the focus for Paul Rudd was around Death of a Unicorn. But anyhow, I was waiting in line for a different movie and I looked over and they were like, oh yeah, we're going to separate these lines. If you're here for Friendship, stay up against the wall. And I would have been like probably third in line for Friendship.
Oh, you should have went. And it's really not a Paul Rudd movie, just so you know. He's in it, but it's really about Tim Robinson, who, if you've ever seen his Netflix show, I think, oh God, what is it? I Think I'm Alone or something like that. I Think I Should Leave. I Think You Should Leave. That's the name of it. I got there eventually. And it's really his movie, and it's really like an hour and a half version of that show, but amped up. It's just completely, we'll talk about it. We need to get to the movies.
Well, anyway, like I was going to finish telling my story a second ago.
No, I'm going to mansplain your story for you.
This is the cool part of the story.
All right, let me tell your story for you. I'm going to do it.
So I could have been third in line to see this movie that you ended up loving. Spoiler alert. Uh-huh. And instead, I was like, well, I really want to see this movie. I don't know that much about it, but I really want to see it. So I stayed in my line, which was like number 27 or something. Mm-hmm. And it was my favorite film of the festival.
That's awesome. That's
cool. And I came out of it and I was like, I heard people talking about Friendship and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, you know what? I'm still so glad that I saw this one.
That's cool. One of the movies I saw, I don't do wait in line for celebrities. It's just not something I do. I don't care about that. But there was one movie that had one particular actor in it that I was like, okay, this is the fan in me. I will wait in line to see this one. And then said actor wasn't even there. But that ended up being my favorite movie of the festival. So it's weird how that stuff works out. It's weird how it works out.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why people should go to see the festival. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is around the fan perspective. So I'm going to just jump into this real quick. One of the best things that you get to experience as a fan of movies is you get to see films that you have no idea if they're going to get the distribution that you hope them to get. So who knows if eyes will ever look at this production ever again, this film or TV show.
Yeah, that is the sad part. I've actually seen, it's my 11th year, I believe, and I have so many movies that I've never seen come out. And it's really sad. It really is sad.
Yeah. But it's also, it is sad, but on the flip side, it's cool that you get to be part of that experience in the first place and see it
with a crowd.
Yeah, exactly. That is the other part. The crowds are the best. And I love that there's so much appreciation year after year. I've only been going, this was my, I think, 5th year, which one of them was a COVID year. So 4 in-person years. Mm-hmm. And you can tell me as the honorary 11-year goer, have they always clapped every time they talk about the volunteers as if they are the celebrities and stars? Because I think it's amazing.
It's fantastic. In fact, when they mention volunteers, if you don't clap, I'm pretty sure you get kicked out of the festival, as you should. Because
fair enough.
I mean, they're doing so much work. Like
they're standing in Austin heat and sun for hours on end without money. Okay. Yeah. That's all I need to know.
It's honestly fabulous. And they do a wonderful job. The volunteers do a wonderful job.
They do. Yeah. Festival. There was one point where you made a joke to me about being a volunteer. And I was like, standing in the sun? Absolutely not. I would never. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do it. So.
It's a lot. And
Thank you to the volunteers.
Absolutely. Because you and I both do work with different organizations that have festivals and things like that and charities and whatnot. So outdoor stuff. To do it all day, all week long, it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of anybody, especially in that heat. And by God, they do it. And even inside with the nice, cool air conditioning, the volunteers are great. Like, they're great everywhere you go, no matter which venue it is.
Yeah.
Only downside is the stateside, apparently, theater, which is right next to the Paramount. Honestly, it makes for a great opportunity. So if you wait in line for something at a Paramount, at the Paramount and you can't get in, you can just segue to the stateside, which is right next door. So you see something. And it was, I think they were closed for renovations. I think for renovations or something. And so they weren't open this year. So if you waited in line, you didn't get in, you had to go to another theater, most likely across town, which, can take you a good half hour, 45 minutes just to get there, let alone wait in line. That part was too bad because it's part of careful planning. You really have to plan your schedule every day. Yeah,
you do. And we kind of hinted at some of the changes, but you definitely needed to invest more into your planning and your decision making for travel and commuting to the different venues. And if I don't get in here, where am I going to go? How am I going to get there on time?
The shuttles, I think, went a little smoother this year. And I know we complained about that last year. I think they went a little smoother this year. I also just limed everywhere. It was so much faster.
I was going to say, I didn't even bother with the shuttle this year. I had a lot more, or I had a lot shorter of windows between films where it was like, no, I need to get there soon. I can't wait on that, and I can't wait on the traffic. So I'm just going to have to scooter over because if I'm not in line waiting an hour to an hour and a half before the film, there's no chance I'm getting in because now I'm competing with like everybody.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So aside from that, anything else you would call out for fans' perspective of why they should go to South by?
Well, I just think you should go because of the depth of genre films, which you already talked about. If you go to Sundance, there's a lot of dramas, a lot of coming of age films. It's just, there's not a lot of genre. There's a little, there's not a lot. This has a ton of genre films. If you're a film and TV fan and you want horror, you want science fiction, you want action, you want comedy, no other film festivals have as many comedies as South by far, nor horror movies, nor just outright genre films. Like, I love genre. I don't want to just see dramas. I don't want to see just Oscar caliber, by their definition of what qualifies for an Oscar, because I think genre films should qualify more for Oscars. And I love a great horror movie. I love a great sci-fi movie. And just having all those options there really, really is what makes it stand out from a fan's perspective, because you're seeing a lot of stuff that you might not have seen otherwise. And also, every once in a while you get something weird like Everything Everywhere All at Once that wins Best Picture the next year. So
in the Alamo, which is one of the or in the Highball, which is the bar within the Alamo, which is one of the venues, they still have a tip jar that has googly eyes all over it. That's which awesome. I think is super cute.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
All right. So for anyone who might not have listened to our previous South by Southwest episodes from years past, South by is known for showcasing and premiering films and TV episodics, even before they've secured distribution for a lot of them. So we kind of reference that. How does the process actually work?
Yeah, and I know I cover this every year, but a lot of people might not have listened before. So South by Southwest is a film and TV festival. It happens every March in the heart of Austin, Texas. It showcases feature films, shorts, documentaries, episodic premieres. This year it made me believe in freaking aliens, wild, VR projects, panels with your favorite filmmakers, influencers, and political advocates if you choose. Once you arrive, you check in, you grab your badge, then you assemble your spreadsheet of planned events. I really recommend a spreadsheet. I don't like traveling with spreadsheets, but you have to for this festival or you're going to be lost. It just makes it so much easier. Films, panels, keynote speeches, VR simulations, parties. There's always something to do, whatever you want to do. And if you are worried about you're not going to make a movie or a panel because you can't get into it for whatever reason, there's always something else going on. That's what I love about this festival. You go to so many film festivals, and if you miss what you're going for, you don't get to do anything for a couple hours. There's always something going on in Austin at this time during South by. So oftentimes it's better than whatever you were planning to begin with. I can't tell you how many times I saw a movie that was so much better than what I was going to see, because, eventually I'll see it when it eventually came out. I'm like, I'm glad I missed that one because this was so much better. And that happens all the time. They also have a stellar app. It works great. And, but there's also like a paper pamphlet that helps you keep films and their schedules very organized. It actually looks kind of like a spreadsheet, but it puts it in line by venue and time. So it's very easy to say, okay, I can do this and then I can do that other one, etc. So there's a lot. That's how it works. And I also want to mention, there's been some changes in South by Southwest, not a major change, but the music aspect, which I alluded to at the beginning, they've cut, it used to be a 10-day festival, And apparently for next year, they're cutting 2 days off that. So the second weekend is kind of cut down, and it's going to be from March 12th through the 18th. So I don't know if that means there's no music. Does that mean music is just really kind of tightened in, or is it more blended into the rest of the festival? Because film and TV and technology has really become super popular at the time, and I feel like they're putting more investment into that. So it'd be interesting to see what next year looks like.
All right. So one more thing before we get into all of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
You have been going for 11 years, you said, right?
Yes. 10 in person, because one was a COVID year.
Perfect. So think about your 10 years. We'll go with the in-person years. What was your favorite South by moment over 10 years?
Oh, my God. Favorite overall?
Mm-hmm. If it's easier to start with your favorite movie or show that you saw over that 10 years.
Moment is the Westworld experience. That still, I've talked about 100 times, and I won't not talk about it. It was the best pop-up I've ever been to of anything. It was basically an amusement park. They took over like 2 city blocks and made Westworld, the show, real. And then Brian Williams, former host, and I sat around and got to do little odds and ends and different things to get more drinks. And I don't remember how the night ended, but I know we ended at the American Animals after party. And I can't remember how we got there, but we got there. It was the best day I've ever had at South by.
That's cool.
I remember bits and pieces of it. Movie, the best movie I've ever seen would be The Guest. That's still my favorite, because that was a total surprise. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know going in what I was going to be rewarded with, and it ended up being one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years. Well, 11 years now. So there you go. Those are my 2. What about you? Experience in movie so far, of all the time you've been going.
I've only gone 4 in-person years. I think last year when we went to the Paramount Plus pop-up, that was my favorite experience thing that we went to. Mm-hmm. And they had a really tasty drink in the Mean Girls room.
Yeah, they had Bass Reeves, they had Halo, they had Mean Girls, and anybody could attend. Yeah. So that was pretty neat.
Oh, they had the little fake tattoos. That was
fake
cute too.
Tattoos. You could sit in the Star Bridge.
Mostly we just had free drinks, and that was fun.
I'm sensing a pattern for myself. But anyway, go ahead. So what about movie for you?
Oh, that's such a tough one. It'd be so easy to go with a movie that is really big and well known. So I'm going to go with one that people still don't talk enough about, and it was nominated for an Academy Award but did not receive it, and that's Black Box Diaries.
Oh, you
that
did love
was
that.
A film. Yeah, I'm between the two of us. I'm the one who likes documentaries. Aaron is not really crazy about them. He'll see them, if it's something that's interesting to him or hears good things about it.
I don't do documentaries very often.
Yeah,
I don't.
But there's one you loved from this year, so we'll talk
I saw
about
one
that.
documentary, and it's one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
But it was a documentary, and it was kind of at a theater that I had only gone to one other time, a venue, and I'm very much somebody, I stick to what I know, right? Mm-hmm. I don't venture out of that. So it was 11 or 1 in the afternoon or something, and I caught this film, and it ended up being one of my favorites, and that's Black Box Diaries, about a woman who basically, she's a journalist, and she does her own investigative journalism to portray her sexual assault case that she took to Japan, and really shook some things up and changed the future of how SA is looked at within Japan. And she was taking on a big name out there. So that was for sure one of them. It was definitely a big surprise coming out of it, realizing, wow, this was way better than I even expected. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the fun part of South by is, all right, I'm going to go check this out, see if it's any good. And then you walk away, end up loving it.
Absolutely. And I will say, I think this is one of our favorite moments, is seeing Long Shot, which nobody saw when it came out, which is sad because that movie was freaking great.
I don't know why I didn't think that has to be my favorite moment. How is that not my favorite moment?
I don't know, but shame on you for not bringing it up.
I got a rose from Boys to Men.
Shame on you. After the movie's over, they did an impromptu Boys to Men concert, literally right there at the theater.
That was crazy.
Right up front. It was fantastic. With Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen and Boys to Men. I'm like, what is even happening? And then Amanda got a rose. I'm like, we're good.
I left Aaron so quickly to go get a rose.
Abandoned. Didn't Didn't have any really exciting moments like that this year, but there's still definitely some fun moments. So let's go ahead and get into the movies and episodics we did see. We're going to talk about the movies that we saw at the festival, as well as any experiences as we go. And I know, we've kind of opened with this. We're going to try and get through these as fast but respectable as we can. And what we're going to do is kind of give a quick synopsis of each film. And then myself or Amanda are going to tell you their brief thoughts on the film, what their final score is. Remember, we rate every movie based on if $10 is the full price of admission. That is the Hollywood Outsider way. And then there's going to be a couple surprises along the way, maybe from the films themselves, maybe from a panel. Who knows? We'll see. We're not going in any particular order, but there will be like a little mini awards at the end of what we loved. And so here we go. Let's start with Another Simple Favor. Okay, now this is a sequel. I love Paul Feig. You know this. Paul Feig has written directly based on something I wrote. Still touched my heart. In case you're listening, Paul, thank you. Still means a lot to me. But this is a sequel that has Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. And I will say, like, before we get into the movie, yes, there were like people with the whole Blake Lively situation out there trying to disrupt. Ugh. It was really tacky, so gross and ugly, and had no place there. It really, really did. That's really all I want to say about it, unless you want to. But it was gross and uncool, and thankfully it didn't derail the film or everybody else that worked on its moment. And I think they kind of kept it away from Blake Lively as much as possible, I'm sure. But it was just really like gross, in my opinion. Just icky.
Yeah, to the woman who was walking down the line for people who were going in to see the film and were waiting for it. Mind you, sitting outside for 2 to 3 hours for this movie.
Which means we're excited to see it.
Going through the line and having a camera in people's faces saying, hey, talk about how you feel about Blake Lively and you'll be on YouTube. Talk about Blake Lively and you'll be on YouTube. And it's like, why is now the time to do this? Why are we? It just felt so disrespectful.
It was. Absolutely was. Not felt. It was just disrespectful.
And very unnecessary. Like, why are we inciting drama and
for their YouTube
all of
channel.
That just for your YouTube views?
For their YouTube views. Yep. That's all.
Be more creative in your content and you won't have to do that. I digress.
That's why we suck at it. All right. I get it. So I'm just kidding. So when we last left Stephanie Summers and Emily Nelson, Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, the tables had turned. Emily had been ravaged by Darren's car, who's Andrew Rannells. He comes back for this one. And she was sent away to prison for murder at Stephanie's hands, while Stephanie turned into a successful, in-demand vlogger, speaking of, with nowhere to go but up. Now, as the sequel kicks off, Emily is curiously freed from prison. We don't really know how or why, and surprises Stephanie with the opportunity of a lifetime, maybe, to be her maid of honor in her next wedding in Italy to the mysterious Dante, who's played by Michelle Morone. And it's basically like the Italian Frank Grillo, I guess, because he really reminds, looks and acts just like Frank Grillo.
Yep.
Of course, a short opportunity if your lifetime could be sliced up by a bit of revenge. So hitting the ground running is an understatement as we transition to Capri, Italy. Beautiful, beautiful place. And I will say the nuptials here are probably the most beautiful that I've seen since Crazy Rich Asians. And a full reuniting of the cast. You know, you've got Emily and Stephanie's ex, Sean, who's played by Henry Golding, who's just a complete alcoholic this time. And then you get more murder, debauchery, ridiculousness, hilarity, and some Hitchcockian turns. If people want to see your full review, they can find it on the website, which I believe they're using you for promotional opportunities. So congratulations to you, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, this was a sequel to a movie that didn't need a sequel. I'll say that right off the bat. Didn't need a sequel. I thought the first one was great and kind of closed the loop. Are you glad that they made this one? Now that you've seen it, I mean, I know you enjoyed it, but are you glad that they made a sequel to A Simple Favor?
Yeah, I actually am. It's one of the few where I feel like it still is able to meet the ridiculousness and witty fun of its first and original. I will say, I mean, there are still some logistical leaps and bounds that cognitively you have to make for everything to work out. But to me, that's fine because it was still a different type of story. It wasn't just a rehash of the same thing in the first movie. It took those character stories and put them to a new level, introduced new characters that were a lot of fun, and had a completely unique story to tell with that same original concept around it. And it was a lot of fun. It was, and you're not kidding when you talk about the wedding having visually some of the best.
It's beautiful.
Production design since Crazy Rich Asians. And by no means is it better than Crazy Rich Asians, because I don't think anything will beat that.
No, it's going to have a waterfall inside the nuptial, inside the cathedral or whatever. Don't even compare.
Watching Crazy Rich Asians, that scene literally gave me goosebumps. So I don't think that'll happen again. But it was really fun.
But Henry Golding has been in the 2 movies with the best nuptials the last 20 years. I'm just saying.
So is he married? If he's not married, his wedding better be over the top.
Oh, man. A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure for that guy.
But yeah, I liked it. What about you?
I enjoyed it. Again, I didn't need a sequel. There is I will not spoil anything, I promise you, but there is a particular plot point that I will say, if you know me well, if you've listened for many years, drove me bonkers, and I think you'll be able to figure out what it is pretty quick. If you don't know me, you'll never know. But there is a plot point that just drove me a little nuts. And so overall, yes, I had a good time with it. The actors are all here to play. I really thought it was fun. And there's a lot of nice nods to Hitchcock, which I have a whole podcast called Presenting Hitchcock. I'm a fan of Hitchcock, right? So I respect and love that. And I am already a big fan of Paul Feig for his niceties as well as for his work. I think he's an excellent comedic director. So overall, yes, it was enjoyable. I do wish they had went a little bit different way on how the plot kind of unravels, but because I called it very, very early. And, but overall, it was still very enjoyable. It was really nice seeing Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. They kind of come together and play like they're playing the same characters, but they're in different places in their life too. Like Anna Kendrick's Stephanie Summers is no longer this meek creature. Like she is fully in control of her destiny. And Blake Lively as Emily has also kind of been freed in a way because she doesn't have the secrets underlying anymore. And she can turn the page on her character, and she gets to play with her character quite a bit too. So there's a lot of range on both. They both evolved, which I think is important for a sequel.
Yeah. So what was your final score for Another Simple Favor?
Mine was $6. I enjoyed it. And I know sometimes when you say 6, you're like 6, that's it. That's actually good. Like that's 3 stars out of 5. That's pretty good. It's just a matter of that last piece of the puzzle that I personally had an issue with. Like I said, longtime listeners, as soon as you watch it, you'll be like, oh, I get it.
It definitely could have been done differently or improved upon, but I still liked it. I gave it 7.50, and my full review is on the Hollywood Outsider website.
Woohoo. Hey, and I told you at the beginning of the show that guess what? There's going to be a few surprises along the way. Well, there are. There definitely are. In fact, we're going to have little snippets from the Q&As from a few movies, as well as a little snippet of one of the panels. And the idea is here, not to give you the whole thing. We'll be talking a little bit more in detail on Patreon about some behind-the-scenes stuff and showing you some of the sound from that. But this is just to give you an insight of what is it like to be at South by Southwest? What is it like to be at the festival, be in the audience, and hear your favorite stars or directors or writers or whatever get on stage and talk about their projects. So throughout this episode, you're going to hear from Another Simple Favor, from that Q&A, from Death of a Unicorn, The Last of Us panel, and a movie that I'll talk about greatly here soon, The Rivals of Amziah King. So this is Another Simple Favor I'm going to start with. This is director Paul Feig, stars Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. Let's let it rip.
What made you want to revisit these characters, and how did you decide they should get glamorous and capri?
Well, I mean, these characters are so much fun. I've always shied away from doing the sequel, because I think they're really terrifying, and I haven't seen many sequels that I like. But I love these characters so much, and it just felt like they had something to revisit. And then the first Simple Favor was really finding a bigger audience all the time on streaming, and it just felt like maybe people want to see that. But then there was a lot of pressure to kind of come up with the right story. And I'd always been obsessed with this wedding in Capri. Giovanna Battaglia, who's the Vogue editor of, editor for Vogue out of Paris or whatever, got married there to some really rich guy. And so actually where they got married at that point, that's exactly, I just recreated that from that wedding. It's so awesome. So if you want to get married there, it will cost a fortune to put that scaffolding up. And it just, but it was really about getting together with these two again, and just so much fun, and then getting the rest of the cast back together, and, whoever wasn't dead could come back. And Josh Sateen is here too, who plays Miles. Where's
Not dead yet.
Not dead, well, that's how we do it.
Sounds like another sequel. Anna, can you talk a little bit about what it was like to get back into the iconic Stephanie's, shoes?
Sure. I mean, yeah. Well, I remember early on asking our costume designer Renee, Stephanie is, as the kids say, addicted to not serving. So I was like, can I just be not very well dressed but comfortable? So I was really excited to play Stephanie, but in sneakers. So that was exciting.
I love that. And Blake, tell us about getting back into the legendary mindset of Emily.
Well, I love this character so much. It's probably my favorite character I've ever been fortunate enough to play. And so when Paul asked us to come back, I was so excited. And I was really nervous on the first one because we didn't know if we were making a drama or a comedy. And we asked Paul, he said yes, which is not really an answer to the question. But it worked out. So I was like, okay, no nerves. I know what I'm doing this time. And then right before we started shooting, he said, I have a little bit of a curveball idea, which I'm not going to say what it was because, we don't want to give away anything. But it definitely, upped the ante. It was very uncomfortable to watch in this theater with you all. Own personal pleasure. So thank you. So yeah, it was fun. It's always fun. Yeah, getting to work with Anna again, obviously, in this incredible group of people was amazing.
And can I take one moment to say something very obvious? Everybody, please don't put out any spoilers whatsoever. There's a lot of twists and turns in this, so I beg of you. I know you.
Wait, I'm just going to tell the ending real quick, though.
No. My God. Nice.
All right, now we're going to Slanted.
As a senior in high school, Joan idolizes winning prom queen as the embodiment of popularity, beauty, and the ultimate form of acceptance into American life. In her relentless pursuit for the crown, she undergoes an experimental racial transformation to become white and win prom queen. However, what she thought was a dream come true soon reveals itself to be an emotional and physical nightmare. Slanted offers a searing and unapologetically satirical view on race and the uncomfortable journey of learning to love yourself and your culture. It stars Shirley Chen, McKenna Grace, and directed by Amy Wong. So, Aaron, you saw Slanted. I heard a lot of things around Slanted. I'd love to hear what your full thoughts are.
Yeah, and I want to add, I believe it won the narrative for South by this year. So, narrative feature. And you saw the winner for the documentary feature. So,
I
hey,
did.
we got some representation here. Speaking of representation, this is a movie. It reminds me a lot of The Substance in many ways, in terms of this is a character who is, and there's a lot going on here, right? There's so much going on. It's touching on immigrant issues. It's touching on culture, respecting your roots, so to speak. It's touching on the over popularization of unrealistic stereotypes, basically, if you're blonde hair, blue eyed, and pretty, your life's going to be so much easier. And that's basically what Joan has in her mind as she grows up. She comes here as an immigrant child and grows up seeing billboards and pictures of beautiful blonde haired, blue eyed women everywhere. And so that's what she wants to be. And when she gets the opportunity, she undergoes this really extreme racial surgery to turn her into a white girl that's blonde hair and blue eyed, who's played by McKenna Grace. So they're playing the same character, just in different aspects. And, this could easily be like a really just a bad version of White Chicks or something. And it ends up being a really multi-layered, really fascinating dissection of the cultural experience from both sides of the fence. in terms of why there is an advantage, what the advantage is it maybe overblown, etc. Like, it's really touching on several factors. And I think it'll hit people differently in many, many different ways. It's funny. It's dramatic. It's really kind of heartbreaking in many respects. Because I think there are a lot of people out there, especially as we're standing in line, right? You see all these influencers going by, these people that are just living through cameras and falsities, right? Because everything they're projecting is not who they are. Because as the camera stops rolling, you see who they really are. And it's nothing like what they just videotape. And that's a lot of what Joan is going through. Like, she just wants to be what she thinks she should be, instead of really having the confidence to be herself. And that's the beauty of the movie, is kind of showcasing to the character as well as us, the audience, that who you are, where you come from, all of that matters. And maybe what you think you should be is not really who you should be. Maybe it is. Just be who you are. And it's really just about acceptance of who you are and your place in life. But it really has a touch of the substance, just because you're kind of living vicariously through another body, and kind of how it goes as the movie rolls on. You know, it's not a horror movie in any way, shape, or form, but it's definitely like a spin on that. It's like the cultural version of The Substance. I loved it. I thought it was a really good film.
Well, it must be good if it won its award in the narrative. So
absolutely.
If the full price of admission were $10, what did you give Slanted?
I gave it $8. $8, which is very high. I'm very picky.
Yes,
or
it is.
I expect excellence. I don't know, something like that. But The Last of Us panel, you went to that. And you're going to hear a little clip of that right now. Okay. Now you can hear more of that on Patreon. We're going to have some more of that on Patreon. But Amanda, why don't you tell me about The Last of Us panel? Like, this is one of the experiences you can get by going to South by. Now, most of what we did was going to films and episodic premieres, right? Because that's what we're there to do. But there's also cool panels where you see the cast and they talk about the show and what's going on in the season and everything else. Did you feel like that was an experience that was well worth it? Because I know you had to stand in line for a while.
I did. It was actually, I think, one of the craziest lines that they've had for a session, for sure this year, but sounds like over the last couple years too. I'm sure it had nothing on Michelle Obama's, but I didn't go to that line, and this was before Michelle Obama came to town.
That
so
line
that
was
changes
nuts.
Things.
That line was nuts. Not gonna
Did
mess
you
with
see
that.
it?
I saw the line. Yeah.
Oh my
Pass.
gosh. I wanted to, and then I was like, there's no way.
Yep.
There's no way. So it was fun going to the Last of Us panel, because it did have the majority of the cast and some of our new faces, including Caitlin Dever, who we're big fans of. Woo woo, Caitlin!
Yes, love her.
And, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, they're the cutest together. They actually, in person, remind me of a father-daughter real life. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so cute. And you can tell that Bella's a little bit more, anxious and reserved. And Pedro is there to add in the humor and break it up for her. And I thought that was so sweet to see that in real time. They obviously couldn't reveal a ton about the season 2 and what we're going to see.
That is the downside about doing a panel before the show airs, right? They can't talk about anything that actually is going to happen.
Yeah, that's the tough part, because you want to really deep dive into what it means and what we're going to see and all that good stuff. But we really focused on details from the trailer. The trailer did premiere at South by Southwest, so that was really cool to be able to have first look on that. Of course, there were people recording it at the same time, so I know it went live very quickly after.
It's going to be on the internet in 5 minutes. Calm down.
In 5 minutes, they're putting it on YouTube with like a fully HD version.
That's funny.
Relax. But anyway.
Yeah. Too many influencers, I tell you. Too many.
Too many. And I did get a good seat comparatively, because there's like 1,700 people and it was completely sold out. Mm-hmm. So we talk about what's coming in season 2. And if you saw the trailer, you know that there's more entities that they're going to be facing. They talk about its relationship to the game and how closely it's going to follow that storyline. And from what I can tell, because I never finished I never played the second game. I only played part of the first game. So I don't know everything of where it goes, but I've done some online learning.
Oh,
and I have an idea.
no, don't do it. You're going to ruin it for yourself. Oh.
I know. I don't know much.
Big surprises in that second game. Big surprises.
From what I understand and from what I gather from the panel, it sounds like they're going to try to keep as closely to some of those big moments as possible. Their goal was never to completely transform The Last of Us into being something different. They want to take its roots and then just expand upon it. So like the new characters we're going to see in this season are built out from existing characters in the game that just didn't have a full story, right?
Sure,
like I think Jesse is one of them, and now Jesse has a full story. And that's great. That's fun. The other thing that they really talk about is, you know, this dynamic of relationship between Pedro's Joel and Ellie. And you start to see that there's a little bit of a riff in the trailer, right? You know, at the end of the trailer, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a moment where she's like, I think she says you lied, or she makes some sort of comment to him, and you can tell that it's very serious. They don't give you inference as to what that means or what's going on, but you definitely now know that there are issues that they have to overcome to be able to get on the other side of this. We're definitely going to have new, like I said, entities, if you will. I don't know if it's a spoiler to say it, but they did say it in the panel, so maybe it's not.
I don't think so. No, the big spoilers, trust me, I would stop you cold in your tracks if you were saying a big spoiler.
Oh, because you know everything.
No, I wouldn't say that, but I know the game, and I know a couple of the big twists there. I'm curious if that's going to play out the same.
From what I gather, it sounds like that's very possible.
Well, prepare to be very. No, I'm not even going to say that. Nope.
But yeah, we have some stalkers, some clickers, all those good creatures that are making their appearances in this season. I will say from a panel standpoint, did I feel like I got a lot out of it for the show? Not really, because there's not much that they can really say.
Sure.
Do I feel like I got better insight into what the behind the scenes meaning of it is? Yes, to a degree. But it really is just more about how they felt filming and their dynamics together, and the excitement that they have coming up for the new season, and how they've dealt with, you know, even being on screen and having these or being in front of the screen and having tentacles around you all the time as like a human being. And you know that somebody is underneath those tentacles. How do you feel? Is it scary, or is it just weird and uncomfortable?
Yeah. Sounds very terrifying.
But it
and
was
exciting.
mostly, you know, the biggest takeaways that I had came from Craig and Neil, and hearing them talk about their vision and how much they wanted to keep true to the game. And I think that's the most important takeaway for fans of the game who love the show is, are we still going to get that? And are you going to do something above and beyond it, or are you going to completely change it? And it sounds like they're trying to stick true to it while also creating more to what the story originally offers.
Excellent. Okay, we've got another snippet from the panel from The Last of Us Season 2. I promise you there are no spoilers in any of these clips, by the way. We don't do spoilers here. So this is just kind of getting you a feel for what Season 2 of The Last of Us is going to be. Here you go.
Obviously, their relationship has changed a little, and we start to see why. I mean, the you swore kind of gives you a little idea of like where Ellie is at, and obviously like where, because of where we leave off, and you swear, and then like I don't know. I think Ellie has had that in the back of her head this whole time, and so that's where we pick them up, and they're not best of friends. Which is quite sad, but I mean...
There's a lot of layers to friendship.
It's true.
Pedro, what can you say? Ellie's older, 5 years older. What can you say about this relationship, where we find them?
Never leave me. 5 years later, they are in a different place, and I think that this is a very relatable fissure in relationships between parent and child, or between anyone you love. And I don't know, it's fucking heartbreaking. You guys are sick people.
Correct.
I'm sitting here watching the trailer, and it's like, oh great, let's burst into tears in front of 1,000 people.
I think it's 1,700 people in here, but they love the tears. Craig and Neil, I want to ask you something I loved when you talked about season 1. You would talk about sort of the seedy underbelly of love, the destruction nature of love, and you've got some big ideas in this trailer. This idea of who's inside people, who's outside monsters. Every path has a price. What are some of the capital B, capital I, big ideas of season 2 that you want to talk about, Neil?
Yeah, some of the stuff you're seeing is, first season we're following Joel and Ellie, and their humanity is really them against these other communities, whether it's David's group or Kansas City. And now we get to see they've settled in Jackson. That's become their home, and there's like a love there for a community. And we really start getting into tribalism. You get to see some other factions in this trailer as well, of like what happens when you go in against another group and you don't see the humanity in them, and how far will that take you, especially when they hurt someone you love.
Craig, anything to add?
No, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. And we always investigate the cost of love. Love is the emotion that leads us to our most extreme behaviors, extreme good, extreme bad. Where this season does escalate things, like Neil said, is creating a sense of a larger love, a larger group. And then even within that group, are you part of that group, or are these two people the group? What happens if somebody in your tight group is taken from you and you feel alone? I mean, there's one thing that Ellie said in season 1, the thing that she's most afraid of is ending up alone. And so all these characters have to face that potential threat of being alone and without a tribe. And at that point, what do you do?
Pedro, in a previous trailer, we got to see you act opposite the great Catherine O'Hara, who plays Joel's therapist, which is there is no therapy section in the game as far as I know. The whole game is a therapy session, I guess. What can you tell us about Joel in therapy?
That's a big load. His therapist deserves high pay. I would say. I have a spoiler. I pay for therapy with marijuana. I gave it away.
Show's ruined.
But that's basically it. I just get her high and tell her my problems.
What was it like working with Catherine?
Sorry?
What was it like working with Catherine?
Catherine, for me, and I know that I go around kissing a lot of butts, but because I'm such a little fangirl. But the thing about Catherine O'Hara is that I've seen her in absolutely everything, and so I don't know. It was like working with Obama.
That's what we were going for. Makes total sense.
And on top of that, she is known so well for comedy, and I get to do a dramatic scene with her. So it is a bucket list of which I am indebted to Neil and Craig for the rest of my life, which is an unfortunate thing. and because of giving me that gift on top of all the other ones.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Well, then we both saw The Studio, which is the Apple TV show. We saw the first 2 episodes of that, which is coming out very, very soon. I believe the date is March 26th. Yep, March 26th, that's coming out. And that's where Seth Rogen stars as Matt Remick, a newly appointed head of embattled Continental Studios. And we got a hat, so we got a real hat first from the studio. He's taking over for Catherine O'Hara. Aw, She's as wild as ever. And as the movie struggled to stay alive and relevant, Matt and his core team of infighting executives battle their own insecurities as they wrangle narcissistic artists and craven corporate overlords in their ever-elusive pursuit of making great films. Now, how this works is it's created by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, who they've been partners for a long time. Most of what Seth Rogen does is because of their work. And they decided to film these as oneers. So every episode is extremely intense, and it's constantly moving and constantly, shaking, essentially, which makes it just a lot of fun. It's just a very intense comedy. It's a wonderful time. I absolutely kind of love it, I think. I mean, I'm very excited to see where it goes. And each episode seems to be like a different aspect of movie making. So there's a little bit of a run of a narrative line throughout the episodes, but overall, each episode is self-contained. And I love that. That's what I want. And I love shows about movie making, especially when Seth Rogen himself has said, we took a lot of this from things that have actually happened and they've heard from studio execs over the years.
Which makes it even more brutal when you watch the TV show.
It is, because I'm like, oh my God, that happened? And most of the stuff has happened. And it's not really hyper reality. I mean, like one episode is about a filmmaker who's trying to do a oneer. And if you don't know what that means, is that oneer is a consistent shot. Like it's supposed to seem like one take throughout the entire episode, right? That's how it's supposed to seem. Even though there's cuts, you just don't notice them, but that's how it's supposed to seem. And it ends up being something very, very complicated. And the studio exec ends up going to the set because he wants to see this being filmed, and he causes complete disruption on the set because nobody wants to tell the guy in charge that he's affecting everything there. Mm-hmm. And then so things go to shit just because he's there. And that's stuff that definitely happens. And this gives you kind of insight into that happening.
The other thing that I really liked about that, and keeping with that same episode and story, so we saw 2 episodes, basically 2 hours worth of the show. And one of the things that I really liked about that second episode is it's so relatable to people even outside the industry. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's completely relatable to people in the industry or who are connected to it and understand how messy and chaotic that can make things. But on a completely unrelated note to Hollywood specifically, everybody who's ever worked specifically with a corporate business knows the reality of this. The last thing you want to do is, one, you want to have the most inviting environment for this head honcho who's coming into your workplace and assessing it, right?
Yep.
You want to make sure everything's on point, everything's perfect, but them being there inherently causes issues. Like even just people knowing that the big boss is there has everyone on distraction or alert of what's going on over there. And it's so relatable to everybody for that reason. And it's so fun to watch the chaos ensue because you can start to see it coming. You're like, oh my gosh, please don't walk over there.
Exactly.
How do you not know this?
Oh, it's good. I really enjoyed it. This is definitely a show I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to probably borrow, wink, wink, someone's Apple TV Plus membership so I can watch it.
You have mine.
Don't rat it out. I don't want it to stop.
Apple, I think, is the only one who's still left with being okay with us sharing.
Nice job, Apple. I'm not going to change phones, but I like it. I like the way you think. But if $10 is the full price for admission, I give this one $7.50. This is a show that I definitely will keep watching. This is my kind of insider show. What about you?
I gave it $8.50. And a lot of that comes from the complexity of how they filmed and shot and edited the episodes.
Nice.
So next up, we have Death of a Unicorn.
Yes, we do.
This one, I will say, Aaron, you were super, super pumped to go watch this one. I think it was top of your list. Mm-hmm. And then after you saw it, you raved about it. And then I was in lines, and one of the movies that kept coming up was Death of a Unicorn.
Well, good. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, so a father and daughter accidentally hit and kill a unicorn while en route to a weekend retreat where his billionaire boss seeks to exploit the creature's miraculous curative properties. Mm-hmm. This is directed by Alex Sharfman. It sounds like this is a good LSD trip. Is that maybe what I'm getting from this description?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, really, really what it feels like is it's Cocaine Bear with unicorns. That's what I keep referring to it. It's just like rampaging unicorns. And there's very much a eat the rich kind of component, because the family that Paul Rudd and his daughter are going to meet out in this this mansion in the middle of nowhere is actually, they're filthy rich, right? They're Leopolds, and it's Odell, who's Richard E. Grant, Belinda, who's Tia Leone, and their son Shepard, who is Will Poulter, and he's freaking hilarious. And that's the family, and of course they have a butler, I guess, who's named Griff, played by Anthony Carrigan, and he's the only, I think, normal one. Him and Jenna Ortega as Ridley, who's Paul Rudd's daughter. Those are the only ones that I think are normal, because Paul Rudd's Elliot is a little bit, he's kind of riding the line because he's trying to chase that money, So once they discover that there's healing properties here, there's magical properties, they want to find more unicorns, or just use every piece of the unicorn so they can sell it to the highest bidder, which means only rich people are going to benefit from this. And Jenna Ortega's really has a problem with that, because, she wants to help. She's very Gen Z. She wants to help everyone, not just rich people. And Paul Rudd, who's Elliot, he wants to get set for life. Like, this is his opportunity to provide for his daughter and take care of her for the rest of her life, and he doesn't want to blow it. So he has a real kind of crisis of conscience in terms of it. It's a very funny movie. It's a little bit slower in the early goings, and then it gets just really chaotic, because essentially once they kill a unicorn, well, the unicorns, turns out they have parents, and those parents are vicious savages who want to fuck everyone up with their unicorn horns. Yeah, so
it's unicorn revenge.
Yeah, it's unicorn revenge. That's what it is.
I love that.
Yeah, it's wild, and the assassinations are very brutal and exciting and fun, and it's very much Cocaine Bear, because it's stupid comedy. It's hysterical. Not as good as it could have been. I actually think I like Cocaine Bear a little more, but it's got enough different pieces to it to make it a really, really fun ride.
Are the unicorns cool looking?
Okay, so here's what I'll say. And this is what kind of hurts the score for me. So
oh no.
There's practical effects and there's CGI effects. And when they're using practical, which is puppetry and in terms of the wounds, they're practical and that sort of thing, or they use a unicorn as a puppet, it looks great. I think it's a great design. It looks cool. But whenever CGI is used, like, it's bucking wild or it's trying to get out of being caught and that sort of thing, it does not work. It looks cheesy, and that's when it doesn't play. And I'm just being perfectly honest. So if you look past that, if that doesn't bother you, I think you're going to have a great time. If it does bother you, you're still going to have a good time, just not as great. It's still a fun movie. And I'm one of those people where I'm like, well, that was a bad special effect. And I still had a great time. It just could have been better with better effects. But it's a low budget A24 movie. So that's what you get.
Well, March 28th, you can see Death of a Unicorn. And Aaron, if the full price of admission for Death of a Unicorn were $10, what are you giving it?
$7.
Not shabby.
No,
that's pretty
not
good.
Shabby. It's a good time. Good time. So keep an eye out for that movie, because I do enjoy it. I did enjoy it. And I do enjoy it. Both of those things are true. But this is a Q&A with the director, as well as Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega.
Okay, Alex, tell me, how did this become your directorial debut? Tell me how it was discovered that unicorns are the mass murderers and best villains of all time.
I don't know. I had an idea for just the opening scene. Was just like a thought that popped into my head about a family, father-daughter driving somewhere, having like a banal conversation, and all of a sudden they accidentally kill a unicorn. And kind of just lodged in my brain for a while, and I had no emotional connection or like no childhood relationship with unicorns, and it then led me to just start like thinking about unicorns and researching them, and very quickly you get into like medieval mythology and lore, and they kind of used to be this totally different thing than what we think of now, and that kind of naturally was like, oh, this could be a fun creature movie to kind of go back to the old lore that we used to have as a society, as a culture.
Of the murderous unicorns.
Of the murderous, vicious, ferocious...
I was unaware of the murderous past of unicorns.
Yeah, there's some good stuff back there. Check out the history books.
For Paul and Jenna, tell us what it was like. What was the process to become father-daughter? How did you develop your dynamic?
I think we met. Shut up,
fortunately, we got on. We had a couple conversations, and then we started shooting maybe a day after, 2 days after that we met.
Acting.
Yeah, I don't know. You speak on it.
Well, fortunately, we had the experience. Jenna is a daughter in real life. I'm actually a dad. We hit it off right away, and when you're lucky enough to get to act with Jenna Ortega, your job is easy because she's incredible.
He was too, guys.
There we go. It did seem weird that I handed you the mic after I said that.
Anything you want to say about me as a director?
All right. Well, you also saw Caper.
I did.
And a friend's disastrous sext accidentally lands in his boss's phone. Sounds terrible. A group of clueless men race against the clock, embarking on an all-night odyssey through New York City's underbelly to hack, bribe, and bluff their way to deleting the evidence. Over the course of 7 hours, this misguided, toxically masculine mission to save a friend from ruin exposes their own fears, flaws, and misconceptions about women. It's directed by Dean Imperial. Man, I really wish I could have caught this. But when I hear the toxically masculine mission and they had misguided understandings of women, but it's also created by a man, I guess I struggle with, is it accurate from what you know, having a wife and a mother and daughter and other women in your life?
Well, number one, I think the description is overblown. It's not that deep.
Okay.
It's not. It's a guy has an affair and he sends a sext to his fling and it ends up he accidentally sends it to his boss instead. So they're just trying to get this before he loses his wife and his job and everything. It's really hard to feel sorry for the guy, but yeah, we do. And so they go off on this mission to try to get the phone and I guess orchestrate a heist. I think the concept is there to be a great movie, to be a lot of fun. I don't think it ever hits the level it should be hitting for the description, because the description's way better than the movie is. It's not hilarious. There are moments where you ever watch one of those comedies where you're like, oh, there's a beat they missed. There's a joke they missed.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what a lot of the movie is. It just feels like missed opportunity. Now the score, what's funny is I love the score. The score is very like heisty. Like it's really just intense and it really keeps you invested. And I wish the comedy was as good as the score was, because it's just kind of okay. That's Caper. It's just kind of okay. Not bad.
Alrighty then.
Not bad. Just okay.
What's the score for Caper?
I give it $5. I mean,
okay.
I think
so
it's
very average.
Yeah, it's very average. It's an average watch. I think they have the building blocks. They have some good actors here who build a camaraderie as well as they could. It just doesn't fire on all cylinders. I think the writing wasn't very sharp, and you kind of see where it's going pretty early. Not that that's a problem. A lot of movies are like that, but a movie that good luck figuring it out from the beginning that we both saw was Good Boy. And he's the goodest boy. He's the best boy. He really is. You got to pet this little guy.
I did.
Well, Indy is a dog. This is a movie that's shot from the perspective of a freaking dog. I'm not exaggerating. That's literally the plot. The whole movie is from the dog's perspective, and I love that.
All I knew going in was it's a horror movie with a dog. That's all I needed to know, and I was ready to be in line. Basically,
his human, his owner, Todd, it leaves his city life to move into the old family home that's kind of known because we hear in conversations with Todd and his sister on the phone, like that's kind of giving us the backstory, and also old videotapes that the dog watches with Todd, that sort of thing. That's how we get the backstory of what's going on and the current elements. And basically there's some kind of force in them there woods. Think of it like a dog taking on Evil Dead in many respects. And so everything is shot from the dog's perspective. And the director, Ben Leonberg, he shot this over, I believe, 300 days. I think, something like that. Exceptional amount of time it took him to shoot this. And everything is literally from the dog's perspective. So the way that he described it is, I wanted to make a movie where, you know how dogs are always hearing noises and looking into corners and you don't know what they're looking at or hearing. This is a movie about that. And it very much is that. And I, for one, thought it was very well done. I love the mechanics of it. I love how it's shot. I love how the dog is seeing shadows that Todd doesn't see, because everything is literally from the dog's perspective. The story is not as strong as it needed to be. I think so much more could have been done with this. And I'm not someone, you should never gauge a movie on your expectations. So my expectations were zero. I didn't know what to expect. I'm just like, it's a horror movie shot from a dog's perspective. But once the movie's done, the story could have been better told. And I don't like how it builds and then it resolves. I feel like the resolution is not good. But the movie itself is still worth seeing, in my opinion. What did you think of Good Boy?
Oh, first of all, you're right. He is the goodest boy. And he is so good as a little actor.
He's a great actor.
I was so impressed. I mean, first of all,
this is the director's dog, I think.
It is. Yeah. It's his own dog. Yeah. So, Ben, I don't know what you are doing with your life. I hear and see that you're directing movies, but maybe you should also be a dog whisperer.
Yes.
Because
or a horror movie dog whisperer. That's what you should do.
It was very Cesar Millan watching this dog respond to everything that this guy is saying to do or not to do. And you could tell that he has the direction, the dog, Indy, has the direction of what to do, and he's fully acting it out. It is the craziest thing to watch.
So well done. So well done.
Air Bud getting a remake, this changes things. Okay? Okay?
Yeah.
But I wholeheartedly agree with you. I feel like the movie was really, really great in so many ways, but where the story ends, especially when you try to hit that climax, it doesn't really hit the climax. And so it feels like you're going through the film more at an even keel pace, with moments of tension and things like that, which are great. But where the story ended up at, it feels a little flat comparatively. So I would have liked a little bit more there, but ultimately I still think it's a good movie. You should absolutely check it out, if not for anything, for seeing the way this movie is shot and edited and directed, because Aaron described it perfectly. You really do get to see it on the dog's even level, his height, right? Like, we are following him as if he is our focal point.
Like, you never see a full face because the dog is out, it's always from the dog's viewpoint.
Right.
It's really cool.
And but you still get to learn about what his human Todd is going through in the context of his story. So therefore understanding the surroundings for Indy. And it's really well done. And I feel like it deserves a lot of recognition, simply, if not for anything, just for that.
Yeah. I think if the same concept was used and a strong, someone who, a stronger reputation for writing, something along those lines. I don't want to take away from him. I think I'm sure it's very hard to write this, but it just, the resolution, it didn't work for me. That's really ultimately. I liked where the story was going up until then. It's just a matter of how it resolved. And you might feel completely different. You might think it's fantastic. It's all in what you think. But I would love to see this done again in a different kind of genre. Like Good Boy 2. And it's a slasher movie. I don't know. Like, there's so many ways to do it.
That's a cute idea.
Because this reminds me...
Literally Air Bud.
Yes, literally. Because it reminds me very much, one of my favorite really low-budget horror movies, I was telling Amanda this when we saw it, is a movie called Bad Moon. It's a really, really low-budget, cheesy horror movie where the dog, Thor, is actually instrumental in the movie being told, like how it plays out. And I love that. The reason why I love that movie is because the dog is the star. And they don't sell it that way. They never sold it that way. But when you watch the movie, the dog, you're watching from the dog's perspective almost the entire movie, and it's great. This is 100% from the dog's perspective, and I love this, and I would love to see it done in a different genre, for sure. Love it. Love the idea, just the execution, it's really the end. So I give it $6.
Same.
Okay.
All right, so we've got We Bury the Dead. From acclaimed writer-director Zach Hilditch, who did 1922, These Final Hours. We Bury the Dead is a gripping and emotional thriller set after a military experiment decimates the people of Tasmania. This stars Daisy Ridley. I don't need to tell you what she's from. She stars as Ava, who is a desperate woman who joins a body retrieval unit in the hopes of finding her husband alive.
Mm-hmm.
Ava's search takes a chilling turn, however, when the corpses she's burying start showing signs of life. Oh, very Evil Dead. As she journeys to the south of Tasmania in search of her husband, Ava is forced to confront the undead and make peace with her own unfinished business. Well, it sounds fun.
It's not fun. It's not fun. What this movie
for an audience?
Sure. No,
the dead coming back to life.
It was very good. This is I think we've talked about 100 times. Like, if you're going to do something like a zombie movie or a slasher or anything else, just do something different. We've seen it done the way it's been done for the last 20 years. Give me something different. Give me something deeper. Give me something meaningful. And that's what they're doing with this movie. It's instead of just focusing on zombies running around, need more cops, give me more brains, whatever. It is very much about mourning. It's about the refusal of being able to accept that you've lost a loved one, that you need closure, about those little elements of losing people that really affect other people's lives, And it's very much about, she had a strained relationship with her husband. They didn't have closure, and now he's disappeared in this world where it seems like everyone's dead. So she volunteers to go because she needs to, number one, make sure he's actually gone, and also try to get her closure. And it takes very interesting turns. It's more melancholy than it is violent. I'll just let you know, like, it's not a bloody zombie movie. It's not. It is much more of a drama. It's really about what would happen if people would have some kind of reanimation. Like, how do we even process that? What do we do? And what does it mean? But also, would you want them still in your life? Would you want to Shaun of the Dead it or what? And it's a really deep movie, and I really, really think it works because Daisy Ridley is a very good dramatic actress. I don't think she gets nearly enough credit for how talented she is, and it really just makes the film kind of sing in that respect. And it really made me reflect on, just making sure you always have closure. Don't leave things open-ended. Like, I'm a big fan of when people get on planes for trips and stuff, always say you love the people you love, tell them goodbye, that sort of thing. Because you never know, right? You never know if this is the last time. And closure really messes people up. That lack of closure can affect people's life for the rest of their lives. I gave it 750.
Well, that sounds like one to check out for sure.
Absolutely. Now, the one I believe that everybody should check out is called Redux or Redo or whatever. But it's the one you saw, and in an attempt to avenge, it's got a great description. In an attempt to avenge her daughter's death, Irene Kelly travels through parallel universes, killing her daughter's murderer over and over and over again. You love revenge movies. So this is like
I do.
She grows addicted to the revenge streak, putting her own humanity in jeopardy. And it's written and directed by the McManus brothers, Kevin and Matthew McManus. So I know you love this movie. Tell me why you love this movie.
I love it for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, Michaela McManus is our lead actress here as Irene, and she gives a stellar performance. If you don't know who she is, for my One Tree Hill fans, this is Lindsay Strauss. So hopefully that helps connect you with her.
Raise your voice if you're a One Tree Hill fan. Not me.
She also, I'm going to give my quick moment here. I did get to meet her and tell her how much I absolutely loved her performance, that this was my favorite film of the festival. Wow. And even told her, I'm like, I've seen headliners too, but I just want to tell you, you did an amazing job, because she really brings this character to life, and all of the pain and anguish that this mother feels, you see without her even having to talk the majority of the time. You can see every moment where she hesitates or questions or feels anger. Like, you see all of that, and her lines are very minimal through those moments. She's very quiet and reserved as a character. It's not like she's screaming at him, telling him, you fucking piece of shit, terrible things, and setting him on fire. No, she's just setting him on fire on a chair. This is not a spoiler. This is one of the main focal points, and the first thing you're introduced to the film with is her killing him in that method. And she doesn't even
Love
have...
this idea. If I had time travel, that's what I would do. Like someone killed my kid, I'd go back and kill them over and over and over again.
Well, and that's the thing is, so we're not even
I'm not
traveling
going after
time.
Hitler. I'm going after this son of a bitch.
We're not going through time. We're actually just going through universes.
Oh,
and
like the multiverse kind of.
The multiverse. Okay. So I'm going to tell you one thing, too, about this film.
So every version of Captain America is getting axed, right? Like that kind of?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they actually created this idea. I want to say it was like 10 years ago or something that they said, Kevin and Matthew, the directors and writers. And for one reason or another, delay, didn't get around to making this movie. Mm-hmm. Well, then Marvel happens, because one of their things was like, how do we explain the multiverse when that's not really our focal point?
Now you don't have to.
Now they don't have to. No. Marvel did it for them. And everybody knows how the multiverse works. Mm-hmm. And all we need to know is that from her time, from her universe, there is... people can buy these units that allow them to travel the multiverse. Cool. That's literally all we need to know about it.
And is the killer actually a killer in every universe too? Or is he not necessarily?
Yes.
Okay.
So one of the main things with this film is Irene is trying to, while she's going out and killing this guy in these different universes, and in each universe she's killing him in a different way, but she gets to retain her knowledge of him. So she knows his routine. She knows where he works. She knows what he does. She knows everything.
And it's basically the same in every universe then.
It is.
What's the point of having multi-universes then? I don't know. I don't like that.
She's trying to find one where hopefully her daughter is alive.
Okay.
And so as she's going through these, she's also trying to see, is there one where my daughter is alive? That's the thing that's giving her hope to get through. And you learn a lot about her own story and the complexities that come with it. And as, she goes along through these universes, she interacts with this woman, this young girl named Mia, who's only a year older than her daughter was when her daughter was kidnapped and murdered. And the thing that I really, really loved about this movie is we don't need to go into the nitty-gritty details of what happened to her daughter. We don't go into the nitty-gritty details of the killer. We're really focused on this journey of what revenge means on a subconscious and conscious level, what it means to feel like you've gotten justice and to be able to move on. I think the concept of closure you mentioned earlier, I think that resonates here. And it's very emotionally and thought-provoking in those terms. It's not as much about the gruesome murders, but you do get that because that's going to draw the audience in, right? Like it still makes it fun and crazy and wild and holy shit. Like there's a lot of action in this movie, but that's just the surface. There's this entire subsurface layer that's focused on what this all means. And Mia, played by Stella Marcus, she was wonderful, and her chemistry with Michaela McManus, it felt like they had known each other for a long time and developed their own relationship, and you could see it on screen.
Okay, that's very cool. And if $10 full price permission, what do you give this one?
Give it $9.
Oof, loved it.
$9 make you holla.
Loved it. Well, speaking of love, let's talk about fuck toys. Yeah, that's the actual title. I'm sure when it releases, it'll have an asterisk, but the movie is called Fuck Toys. And I'm not going to go through the entire description because it makes no goddamn sense. But essentially, it's written, directed, and starring Annapurna Suriam, and I hope I said that right. But she stars as, well, a young woman who is a sex worker. Now, sex workers are having a moment, right? Honora just won Best Picture, and Maggie Madison just won Best Actress, which is great. But this is kind of a fable story. It's really kind of all over the place. It's following AP. Was that the character's name?
Yeah.
Are we sure about that?
No, that is.
Okay. I honestly can't remember, but it's following her as she kind of goes throughout her life trying to just get by and find love and get enough money to God, it's so hard to
she's trying to make anything happen. She doesn't have much. And then she has a bunch of psychics who are telling her, you have a curse on you, and for $1,000 and the sacrifice of a little baby lamb, you can have this lifted. And it's wild and crazy, and it's like very, you talk about fable, it feels like it's a different world or a universe that we're in. Like,
it does. Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. It almost feels a little Wes Anderson-y.
It feels a little Wes Anderson mixed with Sin City, and then, throw in a lot of fable. I mean, like her apartment is basically a bedroom set in the middle of the woods. So,
somehow she can answer her corded phone out there in the woods.
That really bugged you. There's no
I was
no
like,
phone
come
lines.
on, how are we making this happen? I don't care that you brought your bed set to the forest, but how did you make this happen?
It's very campy. It's intentionally campy. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one that becomes like a midnight success and people will grab their friends and go watch it, and it'll be like a Rocky Horror kind of vibe. It's just this is the hardest part, okay? So here's what I'll tell you. The star who wrote and directed it, Annapurna Sriram, is great. I think she's extremely talented. She is overflowing with charm.
As an actress,
overflowing with charm. Just, unapologetic, confident, strong, funny, dramatic. Like she can run the gamut of emotions. I think she has absolutely a place in the acting world. And, her direction is interesting. It's unique. She's trying to do something different. I just think the story's terrible. And I feel bad for saying that because, we did meet her and she's a wonderful person. And I do think she does everything she can to hold the screen. And she does hold the screen. Like, she is captivating. Like, sincerely. I think she's wonderful. I would love to see her in something else. I just did not like the movie. It was not for me. I don't know who it would be for, but it definitely was not me. And I'm pretty open-minded on film. I love artistic. I love blockbuster. I love anything. I'll see. It just did not work for me. And it really, maybe it's more focused on women. So you tell me, did you like it, Amanda?
This is awkward because I felt the exact same way.
There we go. See?
There is something to be said about Annapurna's true vulnerability in the film, and she basically is, I think, in her own way, supporting women sex workers and what they do, and saying that you shouldn't be ashamed and I'm here with you.
Sure,
and she puts herself very much on display, not in like a gratuitous way, but just like a hippie kind of way. Like, she is naked and it is what it is type of thing. And her character is a sex worker. So she goes through and indulges in whatever fetishes are desired.
Lots of fetishes. If you like fetishes, this might be for you,
And there's a really great element of this relationship that she starts to develop / friendship, and the impact of that and what it means to these different people and all of that. But overall, I felt like the one issue I really had with it was the writing of the story and how it ebbed and flowed and even where it ended up at. So I was on the same boat, but I liked it a little bit more than you. I gave it 4.50.
I gave it 3.
So
and that's
really didn't like it.
That's all for Annapurna. All of it is for Annapurna.
She is really, really charming, and like she can hold the whole screen.
She is.
No problem.
I hope she finds something else. I really, especially when I know somebody put their heart and soul into something, I just hate saying that I really just didn't like something, because it's just so hard to do when someone is, this is their dream, right? I don't want to shit on someone's dream. It just didn't work for me. Maybe you'll feel differently if you see it. It just didn't work for me. But I want her to succeed because I think she could be a big star. I really do. I think she's very talented. All right. Now, Shuffle. Let's move to Shuffle. This is one that you saw, which is a documentary, which won Best Documentary, I believe, for the festival this year. Shot over the course of 3 years, Shuffle follows 3 individuals whose lives depend not on getting into treatment, but on getting out alive. And in the process, shines a light on the insurance-fueled cycle of addiction treatment fraud spreading across the country. Oh, I'm already getting pissed reading the description. With the filmmaker serving as narrator, using his own experience as a roadmap, these personal stories provide the framework for a more public investigation with the help of an FBI informant, an insurance analyst, maybe even better, and the former executive director of a Philadelphia-based treatment facility. So, what did you think about Shuffle?
So Ben Flaherty is the director / narrator here, and really takes his own experiences that he's had in South Florida with this insurance fraud scam and brings it to light through other people's. And it's something that I had no idea of, which is shocking because I'm very embedded into this world of, mental health, mental illness, addiction, recovery, all of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea just how gross this industry could be. And essentially what it comes down to, and I know it's not really a spoiler, but I do want people to see the revealing of these details on their own. So I'm only going to share like a little bit with you. But there's people who are paid to stand outside of rehabilitation facilities to sell drugs to those coming out, just so that way they can get them back in. And then there's essentially finder's fees for recruiting addicts to come into treatment. And because they get paid on going in and not being successfully completed. I mean, they have to stay their term, but once they're gone, they're gone. So, of course, now that's money for this broker, for the rehabilitation center, for the addict. And it's just a money-fueled scam that keeps people perpetually in and out of getting on drugs. Because to get back into the treatment center, they're paying you to do drugs so you can get back in.
It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. I don't like it.
It's disgusting. It is not, I wouldn't say it is the most, I think it had opportunities from like a filmmaking standpoint, but that just comes with, honestly, money. And that's fine. So the story itself, the only thing that I guess I would have, more of a critique on is I would have liked to see it expand beyond just the South Florida area to really understand how pertinent it is throughout the entire country. And is it really this pocket of an area, or how big does this really go? And expanding on the depth of it would be interesting. But it was something that shone a light on something I think a lot of people have no idea about, myself included, until this.
So what did you give it out of 10?
I gave it 6.
Okay. So you did enjoy it, but you didn't love it as much as others have.
Yeah, I like I said, I think it could have been made a bit stronger and had stronger evidence for the case rather than like 3 or 4 people and a couple specialists. I think just helping to understand the gravity of it throughout the country would have been great. But I also understand this coming from someone who was in that area, in that region. And so he's shining a light on, his area that he was involved in too. So it's not it doesn't negate any of the work there. I'm just saying that I think it would have helped substantiate a lot of this to make it a bigger deal to people.
Okay.
So you saw the yogurt shop murders. Moving into true crime here. It explores the tragic murder of 4 teenage girls at an I can't believe it's yogurt shop on December 6, 1991 in Austin, Texas. The docuseries dives into the immense trauma left by the crime and details the maze of the investigation. Interviews with family members, investigators, and suspects, along with a trove of archival footage, reveal a crime scene ravaged by fire and water, an overwhelmed police department, and a terrified city. This was created by Margaret Brown. This one sounded interesting from just what I had briefly read about it, but I didn't hear anyone talk about it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
This will be my shortest review. It's an episodic. It's 4 episodes. It's average. It's every true crime doc. I mean, you're going to enjoy it because it's a fascinating topic, because it's never been solved, but also because there's a lot of things going wildly in different directions. There was a lot of damage. There's not much evidence. It does focus a lot on the families and the victims' families, which I appreciate. I just don't feel like there's a whole lot new here, so it felt very average to me. So I gave it $5.
What could have been improved upon to make it better?
Well, number one, you only
is it
see
the fact that there's too much uncertainty
no,
and like not
I don't
enough
mind
information?
No. I mean, Zodiac has never been solved, and every documentary I find fascinating with that. It seems like it felt like it was too drug out, honestly. I think they could have done this in 2 episodes. I felt like it was just kind of being drug out. And I didn't feel like the narrative there wasn't a flow. It was kind of all over the place, in my opinion. You'll watch it soon. It's going to come to HBO. I don't think the date's announced yet, but it's going to be on HBO. And it's a 4 episodes. But like a lot of true crime these days, I feel like there's too many episodes and it's not a consistent narrative where it's kind of going down the same path, like where it's going in an understandable direction. It's just kind of bouncing across the street, left and right.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, that was just pretty average.
So the next that you saw is one that I really wanted to see, but I did not get to see, and that is Hollow Road.
Loved it.
2 parents receive a distressing late-night call from their teenage daughter who has just accidentally hit a pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
They jump in their car, racing to get there before anyone else stumbles across the scene. As they head deeper into the night, disturbing revelations threaten to tear the family apart as they soon realize they might not be the only ones driving down Hollow Road. This has Rosamund Pike, Matthew Rhys, and is directed by Babak Anvari.
Mm-hmm.
You said you love it. Why did you love it?
I love it. This is very much like an extended Black Mirror episode. So if you like Black Mirror or Twilight Zone, you're going to like this. You're just gonna. It is most of it takes place in the car as they go from their house to the accident scene, right? And as they talk to their daughter, as they talk amongst themselves, there's a lot of parental back and forth. There's a lot of debate. How far would you go to protect your kid? Should you be protecting your kid? Do they need to own what they just did? If they did anything, it's a lot of, really, if you're a parent, I'm a parent. So it really speaks to me on many levels in that respect. The performances are top notch. Rosamund Pike and Matthew Rhys are in the car going back and forth through the whole movie. And then my favorite part, and I won't spoil any of this, but in the last 10, 15 minutes, kind of you take a little bit of a turn on that road and it ends up being something that I didn't expect. And I freaking love that turn that it takes. And I won't tell you what it is, or even if it's a big turn and, whatever. But it really, like I said, it reminds me very much of Black Mirror because I had all my own stuff in my head of what this movie was going to be. And then as they get near the end, I'm like, oh, this is a different movie than I thought it was. This is not exactly what I thought. And I loved it. Loved the turn. Loved the movie as a whole. I love anything that's a character piece where you have 2 actors at the top of their game showing you why they're so damn good at this. And both of them do that.
All right.
So
you gave that one $9, right?
I gave that one $9, man. It was fantastic. Yep. Loved it. Not my favorite movie, but very close of the festival. Hey, we were talking a lot about movies and TV, but guess what? If you have Paramount Plus, Tulsa King has been renewed for season 3. Bam. It's already in production. Yo, Sly Stallone is already on the case. But also, The Boss is back in season 2 of that hit series, Tulsa King, starring 3-time Oscar nominee Sylvester Stallone. Get a fresh look behind the scenes with 2 exclusive featurettes, including Stallone's tribute to fellow cast and crew and the creative process for writing dynamic storylines. You can own Tulsa King Season 2 on DVD and Blu-ray right now. It's a great show and it's a lot of fun. And anyone who listens long-term, I love Stallone. Hey, yo. Let's get on with the show. All right, so Happy Face. You saw this one. This is actually what you saw while I was seeing Hollow Road. And you're hanging out with Dennis Quaid while I'm watching Hollow Road. So this is inspired by a real-life story. Happy Face tells the story of Melissa Reed, daughter of Keith Jesperson, a.k.a. the Happy Face Killer. And after decades of no contact, Keith forces his way back into his daughter's life, and Melissa must find out if an innocent man is going to be put to death for a crime her father committed. In the process, she must face a reckoning of her own identity. And it stars Annalee Ashford and Dennis Quaid. I love my Dennis Quaid. So you tell me, does he land as a serial killer? Is he menacing? Is he disarming, etc.?
He is. He is not the charming Dennis Quaid that I remember growing up. It was actually a little weird to see him as so reserved and creepy and uncomfortable, but in a very normal way. It's very hard to explain his demeanor, but he didn't feel over the top. Mm-hmm. Where it was like now he's this gross Joker character, but it felt more like a very authentic, oh, there's just something beneath the level here that makes it uncomfortable for you to not realize that you would see it right off the bat. And that's what a lot of serial killers are, honestly, is they're not overly charming. They're charming enough. You know, some of them are ridiculously charming, or like they have the intention of that if they're trying to, you know, if that's their demeanor. But a lot of them are just like, oh yeah, it was normal. Like we thought they were a completely normal person, and that's who he is. And then you find out more about the things he did or didn't do to these people as she learns about them, because she tried to keep herself very separate from what her father had done.
And how is she as an actress?
You know, Anna Lee, she was great in that character. The thing that I struggle with this show, and this is not to discredit the show by any means, it's just that I feel like we've been here before. We had The Prodigal Son, and that's the name of the show, right?
Yep, that was in the show. Yep.
And it felt so similar to that, where it's like, oh, my parent is the serial killer, and you know, everybody thinks that they're so nice, and then I know that there's a real demon inside, and was I complicit or involved or knowing of any of these things? The difference is this is real. So they actually had, at the Q&A afterwards, they actually had the real Melissa there.
That's creepy.
Yep, whose father actually was a serial killer, and she realized, you know, as she got older, what those little things when she was younger meant. And those are portrayed in the show, in the episode that we screened. So that's all real. When you watch the episode of Happy Face, the things that were hints that she should have gotten, you know, per se, should have, when she was younger.
It's not fair.
It's not. I'm just saying, like, that's the perception that existed.
Sure.
But those things that she didn't see that were connected are all very real. Those were things that she, as that woman, recalled with her father.
Wow.
So that makes it eerie on a different level. But from a TV show standpoint, it doesn't feel like it's... I just missed Prodigal Son a little bit, too. I know that's bad to say. But Dennis Quaid is good enough that I want to come back and see more. And so is Anna Lee. She is a great actress.
And this comes out on Paramount Plus on March 20th, and then it's like each week after that. But
I think they're doing 2 episodes at the premiere and then a week on Thursdays or something after that.
You got a hug, right, from Dennis Quaid? You got a little bit of a
I got a photo where I got to be, you know, snuggled up real quick.
How was that?
Indeed.
Did you feel
it was very brief.
Did you feel better when you hugged him? I would have felt better.
It was it felt very surreal. Like I just walked up to him. It was very weird.
It was funny because before we walked in, because we were at the same theater going to different things, right? And I told Amanda, I'm like, hey, if you meet Dennis Quaid, tell him DOA is my favorite movie, because I'm sure he never hears that. And you did use the line, right? Did he seem surprised?
Yeah. He said, really?
It's true, Dennis. It's true. I love that movie.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
It was a very cool moment. And I know he was hustling to get out and about, so I appreciated that he even took a second to take a photo. I asked him if it was okay first.
Because we normally are supposed to do that as press, by the way. I've never done it.
It's a no-no.
It's a no-no. But I appreciate
But there was like nobody there, and I felt like I had to do it for myself and for Aaron, so.
I appreciate you. All right.
$650 if I didn't give my score.
Yes, there you go. Well, we'll find out if it sticks the landing when all the episodes are out, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
A movie that has 2 things in the title that this is a line that I actually heard from someone in a line. She said, I don't want to see this because there's 2 things I don't like: clowns and cornfields. So clowns in a cornfield is...
Just clown, singular, in a cornfield.
Sorry,
thank
clown
you.
in a cornfield.
Jeez. How much pressure do you think we can take at this thing? You know, multiple clowns. It's a lot of clowns.
Quinn and her father have just moved to the quiet town of Kettle Springs, hoping for a fresh start. Instead, she discovers a fractured community that has fallen on hard times after the treasured Bay Pen corn syrup factory burned down. welcome to Kettle Springs. The real fun starts when Friendo the Clown comes out to play, and this is directed by Eli Craig. Is this terrifying, or is this like satirical clown?
This is, did you ever see Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Yes.
Same director, same vibe. It's very much a horror comedy, which means it's very funny. There's a lot of horror, a lot of cool, entertaining deaths. Like the deaths are ridiculous, but also very fun. And there's a lot of twists along the way. It's not, I don't want to tell you too much about it because it definitely is not the movie you're going to think it is by watching the trailer, right? Whenever the trailer comes out, it seems like it's going to be just a typical by the numbers slasher flick. There's more to it than that. It is a slasher flick by all accounts, but also a very funny one. But I would say it's not to the level of Scream, but it's kind of doing some Screamish things where it's turning horror tropes on its ear a little bit.
Alrighty.
That's kind of all I want to. I don't really want to, ruin it. It's well cast. The actors are all very, very strong.
Is it gruesome? Because the main photo looks like it's pretty bloody.
It's pretty freaking bloody. It's pretty gory, and I think it's a fun time. It's one of those horror movies you want to go see with friends. Now, the last act, it's going to be up to you if it works for you or doesn't work for you. I think overall it works for me, although I've got all kinds of, I could poke lots of holes and kind of where it goes, but I just want to enjoy the ride, and I thought it was a fun ride.
All right. Well, Clown, singular, in a cornfield is coming to Shudder on May 9th.
Yep. And I gave it 650. Definitely worth the watch. Then you saw American Sweatshop, which I can go a whole bunch of ways with that one. But in a device-driven world, this takes a searing look at the toll of social media through the eyes of Daisy, who finds herself sucked into the underbelly of the internet. The dark web. Daisy and a motley crew of coworkers toil in a cottage industry of agencies that evaluate harmful and offensive pictures and videos uploaded to social media. With detached caution and deranged sense of humor, they examine the millions of posts that get flagged for review. But one particularly violent video grabs hold of Daisy, luring her out of this office, away from the safety of her keyboard, and into a dangerous world as she obsessively seeks to hold someone accountable. And it stars Lily Reinhart, who I really like from Riverdale. I really like her from a show I can't remember the name of. Danielle Mature and several other people. So this sounds like it is a thriller. Is that fair?
It is like a drama thriller, but it's very slow paced. And it's very...
You made sure to point that out. That makes me a little nervous.
No. It's not a bad thing.
Okay.
It's just that not everything is very... The tension is built through her emotions and what you're seeing on camera and like what's going to happen. It's really just following the story of she wants to hold someone accountable for what she believes is a very vicious video of someone getting essentially tortured, and everyone she takes it to does nothing about it.
Oh, wow.
And she's not allowed to technically release the video as being an employee. And so how does she get this video out and outside of the walls of work? And is there someone she can hold accountable for this?
Okay, it's a cool concept.
It is very. And when you see the video, because you see it early on into the movie, to me, it was like, how does anybody not see that this is evil and this is bad and this is real? But you have to remember, without the context, it's hard for them to prove that this is something that wasn't consensual, that this wasn't something that was just a fetish. But I mean, to most normal people, I feel like you figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And Lily Reinhart does a really, really great job of keeping my attention in particular for being a slow-paced film. It's not something that's driven by action or these, crazy situations, though there are some as the film goes along. But in the first act and even a little bit into the second act, it takes a while for it to build into something more, because it's really just getting you familiarized with how gruesome this job is for people and the things that they're seeing on a day in and day out. And then it starts to go deeper into her trying to do something with this. It was a pretty good movie. I liked it a lot. I think that they probably could have done they could have made it a bit more gruesome, maybe, to make it and take out some of the questionability from those she does take it to, because to me, it just wasn't that questionable of a video, in my opinion. But I love where her character takes it. I love the character type. You know, this is a woman who's very driven, where she doesn't give a shit what you have to say. Okay, you're not gonna help. You're gonna be a gross human being. Cool. I'll figure out something else. And Lily Reinhart, I feel like I'm so used to her being so upbeat and peppy and happy and jovial that seeing her in this very almost like a neutral state because of how impacted she has been from watching this stuff online. She's just very neutralized. There's not much left to her, is what it almost feels like. And this is one of the things that is giving her some type of passion or fuel.
Understood. So what do you give? What's the score on this one?
650.
Okay. Solid.
All right. So the next one is The Rivals of Amazia King? Question mark?
Amzaya King? Rivals of Amzaya King.
I thought you were missing a letter.
Yeah. And I should say, if I haven't said already, there will be a list of these in the post, the show notes on thehollywoodoutsiders.com. So if you're like, I can't keep track of all these titles, there's so damn many of them, they will be on there, so you'll be able to find them. But yeah, The Rivals of Amzaya King.
Okay. So deep within the backwoods of rural Oklahoma, sounds terrible, charismatic and musically gifted Amzaya King.
Close enough.
Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it. That's close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Herds a bluegrass playing band of misfits while overseeing the premier honey-making operation in town. When Amzaya's estranged foster daughter unexpectedly returns, they leap at the possibility to renew a connection and create a family business. But the honey game is ruthless, and Amzaya's rivals threaten to destroy everything he has built. This is directed by Andrew Patterson. Are you related to someone? And starring Matthew McConaughey, Angela Looking-Glass, and your man, Kurt Russell.
Who wasn't there.
But it was worth it to go, because if he did show up and you didn't go, imagine how you'd feel.
I went to this one. This is the one that I went to for just the hopes that I might actually see my favorite actor of all time, Kurt Russell. No shame in that game. I didn't know much about this movie, but I knew that there would be a long line. So I'm like, I could probably see 2 movies in the time it takes to see this one. But I went and saw it anyway. And actually it worked out. I saw a clown in a cornfield right before it and got in line. So I was able to go one back to back. So it worked out pretty well. What I will say is that I went in not knowing anything. And I'm so glad that I knew as little as I did. So I'm going to try and keep that for all of you. But it is a wildly unique film. It's wholly original. It is about, like the description said, a beekeeper who has, a little nefarious rival, and he's reconnecting with his foster daughter Kateri, who is played by Angela Looking-Glass. I believe it's her first acting ever. She was so shy in the interviews, and I'm trying to have some of that clip here in a minute. Matthew McConaughey, effortlessly charming. There's a lot of bluegrass music going on. It's almost like there are musical set pieces here at times. It feels very it's all over the place, but yet consistent. It has its own tone, its own genre, its own ideas of what this could be. It takes a couple very sharp turns without you having any idea they're coming. And it's deeper than you would expect. And also it's kind of simplistic in a way. It's a lot of different things. It's very, very hard. It's kind of one of those movies where as you watch it, it's like you discovered a new art in some way. Like, it really blew my mind how well done, unique, and wholly original this was. And I hate bees. And I was able to watch a movie about a guy who makes out with them and is constantly surrounded by them. And it's emotional and it's beautiful and whimsical and dark and dangerous and fun. And again, and then there's the elements where it just feels like, did this just become a Coen Brothers movie? Like, what just happened? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. This is my favorite film of the festival by far.
And what was that pretty score that you gave it?
9.5. It's almost perfect in my opinion.
for The Rivals of Amziah King.
Yep. And eventually you'll be able to say it correctly. So there you go.
Maybe. Maybe not.
But I can't recommend it enough. Matthew McConaughey hasn't had a feature film in, I think, 6 years. He's done commercials and stuff, but hasn't had a feature film in 6 years. And I understood why he came out for this one. Like, it is completely unique. Love it. Love it.
There's another cool Matthew story. Are you going to tell that story?
From the Q&A?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to let that guy tell the story.
Oh, okay.
So here we go with that story. Okay, and this is going to be the Q&A from The Rivals of Amziah King. And you're going to hear the director, Andrew Patterson, Matthew McConaughey, of course you do, and a wonderful story that Amanda was alluding to from Rob Morgan, who, it turns out, was in a couple movies with Mr. McConaughey. It's a great story. Here, take a listen.
Just fully, how long has this been brewing, and who were the first people that you started to bring it to?
It came to me in 2018. I'd finished The Vast of Night, and I was looking for a follow-up movie. And I thought that one was so dark and so coated in night that I wanted to do something out in the sunlight. And then I wanted to make a story about a young lady that takes the reins of a narrative you don't see coming. And it grew into a larger project for a minute, and then it became shorter again. And that's when I brought in Mr. McConaughey, and he took over from there.
And what were your first conversations together like?
Our first conversations. The first Zoom we had was about 4.5 hours long.
It's getting longer.
I do like to say, I repeat it again, he was in a headband, not that one, he usually has a headband on. He was in a black headband sitting at an antique table with his great-grandmother's clock behind him. And it wasn't all the yeses and things he was agreeing with. As I said earlier, you could tell the man wrote it, and I could tell they had control of the material. It was the stories of what he said no to over the last however many years after Vast of Night. And you know how attractive it is to find somebody in life or in work that has their own singular vision and has said no to so many temptations and a lot of greenbacks along the way. Something that says this man's gonna do his own thing. He's gonna hold the line, and that sounds like a fun hell of a ride. So everyone.
And while this very much seems like it could only come from one mind, it also seems like a heavily collaborative film. Was that the case?
I think everybody here brought something special. From the way that they read dialogue to the way that they took over music. You gotta understand when you're directing, there's not a lot of time to come in and say, play the song like this, do this exact thing. And every one of these people were ready to go whenever we got to a song, or ready to go whenever we got to a B scene. And so I would say it was heavily collaborative, but mostly I just let it become their movie.
And when it came to rehearsing moments throughout, did you have to cram all the music into one sort of big rehearsal, or were you able to space it out throughout production?
I would love the musical people to answer that.
Spaced out?
Yeah. We would walk around just playing the instruments. You know, we just have, like, my man would just have the mandolin just walking around playing. I'd have my ukulele just walking around playing. You know, so it was kind of like just a part of just the set. We made it our lifestyle on the set to just walk around with instruments. So that was fun.
It was spaced out. Meaning we didn't get together and shoot all 6 musical numbers at once. Those were live chronologically when we shot scenes. Some of them went longer and different than we originally intended, in a good way, I think.
A hell of a good way.
You know?
Is there a specific day or moment for each of you on set that you're like, I want this to be the first one that I think of?
Oh man, the first memory is that this is literally a full circle dream come true. My very first movie, I was a background extra in this movie called Contact.
Contact is my favorite film of all time. So yeah.
Bro, I was a background extra, and they allowed background to make some noise, so I ad-libbed my scene. And I told Jodie Foster there was nothing out of space, don't waste my tax dollar, get a real job. And so, when I saw it on screen, it just really gave me the ambition to pursue this craft and this career. So 30 years later, I'm opposite this man. And I'm like, man, you know, we're in the car, you know, we just waiting for us. I'm like, man, you know, I don't mean to be too, you know, intruding, man, but I gotta tell you, you know, 30 years ago, my first movie was Contact. And now I'm like acting opposite of you as in the same movie. And he's like, yeah, man, you know, 30 years, I've been doing what I've been doing to be here acting with you. Just how he answered it and everything just really elevated me on a whole. I was like, damn, this motherfucker's a movie star. He told me he was basically doing the same shit to get to me 30 years later. And I was like, oh man, so yeah, I will always remember this project.
Okay, so now let's move into The Spies Among Us. That's a rare look into the inner workings of a data-driven surveillance state run by one of the most feared Secret Service forces the world has ever known, East Germany's Stasi. Stasi?
Stasi.
Something like that. So let me ask you, this is a personal investigation into family secrets by Peter Koepp, who's a victim turned historian, who it takes a turn when he contacts the men who ran the system, and these are the first conversations of their kind between Stasi officers and a victim. Is this
close enough? Maybe one of these days you'll be able to say it right.
Whatever. Is this? That's fair. Is this riveting as it sounds, or is it not as strong as you would hope?
I don't think it hits the mark as strong as I would hope. But I'm also, let me preface this all by saying, I am not your historian. I am not your history person. I'm not your geography person. There are two things that I really struggle to even care to pay attention to. And I know this is terrible to say, but the way this was, this is going to sound so mean when I say this. The story itself is really great. It's very interesting. I had no idea about this Stasi regime situation and the historical impact.
I feel like I said it like that. Right?
You said Stasi, but whatever.
Stasi. So they're like Sean Connery says it? That's how it's supposed to be
Stasi's
said?
mom has got it going on. That's how you said it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Anyway, but the way that this was filmed and edited, which was very much a let me follow, it was just conversations of like reading through things, is what it felt like. There wasn't, I think if they would have incorporated more visuals to help story tell, it would have made it more interesting. But otherwise, it felt like the documentary that your history teacher would put on when they have a substitute teacher.
Oh, damn. Oh, snap. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how to,
snap.
yeah. So it's still crazy, though, because it was his brother. He had no idea his brother was a spy, and his brother was spying on him and his family. And I was like, damn, that's some family drama right there.
It's going to make Christmas weird. Yeah.
Do they celebrate Christmas?
I don't know.
Everybody
celebrates Christmas, right? Right? Everybody? The whole world? I don't know.
I don't know. They seemed like really mean people. The Stasis or whatever. But 5. I gave it 5 out of 10.
All right. Oof, let's move on from there because I don't want them come tapping my phones.
Another documentary that you got to see that has transformed your life.
I think it has.
Aaron.
I think it has a little bit. Yep.
The Age of Disclosure.
It is not about trying to date minors. All right. It's not weird. Don't be creepy.
Why is that what comes to mind?
Just
for
clarifying. That's not why I liked it. It has nothing to do with that. That's gross.
An unprecedented and revelatory documentary featuring 34 senior members of the U.S. government, military, and intelligence community that reveals an 80-year cover-up of the existence of non-human intelligent life, aka aliens, and a secret war amongst major nations to reverse engineer technology of non-human origin. The film exposes the profound impact the situation has on the future of humanity while providing a look behind the scenes with those at the forefront of the bipartisan disclosure effort. The timely film comes on the heels of historic historic bipartisan congressional hearings on unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, aka UFOs, and Senate proposed legislation for disclosure. This is directed by Dan Farah. Farah, that guy. Aliens, Aaron. The truth is out there.
Amanda, I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Oh my God, it's all aliens.
I walked in a total skeptic. I've made fun of this whole concept every time it pops up on the History Channel. I love the meme with that doctor. You know, aliens. I love that. I love the X-Files because it's fiction. And the reason why this got me is usually when you're watching a documentary about UFOs or UAPs, as they're known now, because people want to get away from UFOs because it's got a stigma, right? Because you sound like one of those kooks that are just chasing, yeah, sure, there's aliens, but nobody in this movie has not worked for the government. Everyone in the film has worked for the government, has personal firsthand knowledge of these situations and these scenarios and this information. So you're not hearing from any kooks or chasers or, you know, people that just hang out in Roswell every year hoping that something lands there. Like, these are people that literally work for the government and are trying to get things unclassified so that you can see the truth that is already out there. And the governments are trying to keep that. And they kind of go over why certain governments have managed to keep it secret so much. It's because whoever finds and identifies the technology from these particular beings and or craft will be able to use that to control technology for the next 100 years to come. It's the new arms race. It's the new...
What?
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's exceptional technology that exists, right? That we don't currently have. If we could find it and we can mimic it, whichever country or takes that would revolutionize technology on their own and be setting their own pace. They would be.
Isn't this maybe a little dangerous to disclose then?
Well, that's why they keep stopping it. Why the government keeps kind of putting a hold on it, and that goes through all of that. I mean, you've got people, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, James Clapper, who used to be a 4-star general. Like, you've got real fucking people that worked for the government saying the shit's real. Like, you know, I can't tell you what I know, but I'm telling you I know. You know, and it's a freaking amazing documentary. Like, blew my mind.
With this stuff being classified, right? The whole thing is about how do we make sure all of this gets declassified.
Some of it's been enough has been declassified that they can talk about.
Okay, so that's what the evidence is. It's just the stuff that's declassified.
And it's them trying to get this act through to let people know what's really out there.
Do they hint at what else is out there?
Yes. Hell yeah, they do.
Or do they tell you straight up, like, shit?
Nope. But they do imply, like, if they talk too much, their lives can be in jeopardy. They have a real concern about that. Like, there's a lot in the documentary. It's like an hour and 45 minutes, and I was not bored once. And I walked in going, I don't give a shit about this. I need to see at least one documentary. I mean, I can't be that film critic that just never sees any of the documentaries. I'm like, this looks interesting. I'll check it out. I can't wait. You know, it's kind of like if it was a ghost documentary, I'd walk in going, yeah, sure, convince me. And they did. This one did. This one actually managed to convince me, oh shit, maybe there are aliens. It's just a matter of, like, the movie does a very smart thing in terms of, number one, everybody has worked for the government. That's a huge win on their part, right? They're not going to people that are just throwing out theories left and right. They're sticking to facts. There is one section of the film that deals with a potential theory, but they're very clear to say that this is just a theory, just an idea. This is not anything factual. Everything else is based in fact. Everything else, there are actual clips and explanations to what people have seen and experienced.
Oh, so it's like you can't deny it after you watch this.
I think you can't deny that there is something else. Yes, out there. Yeah. And there's a very detailed explanation. And as to why people would want to hit them, like why they explain that there are religious factors in the government that just don't want this. They don't even want to consider this reality because it would kind of squash a lot of religious theory, would it not? I mean, if your theory is God, I mean, that kind of pours one out for that homie, you know? So I think there's a lot to it. It's one that I think you have to experience to really appreciate. You know, I'm not going full blown. I'm not going to jump in a van and drive across country and try to find aliens. Like, that's not how, you know, full blown it convinced me of anything. But it did it did definitely convince me that, yeah, there's something out there that, and we're not being told the truth. We're just not we're being lied to. And I know a lot of people, I think they do a very good job of explaining, like, so many things have been proven right by some conspiracy theories that now people either don't take conspiracy theories seriously or they take them too seriously. It's like somewhere, and they're like, that's why Dan Farah sticks to the facts so much, is he doesn't want this to veer off into conspiracy theory. He wants to stick to what things can be proven. What have you seen? What do you know? What documents have you seen? And that's what it sticks to for almost the entire film. And I think it just does a wonderful job.
And what's your score?
850.
For The Age of Disclosure?
850. And if I see a UFO, it'll be 10. Just saying. Like, it'll make my score go up. So it's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing. You watched a movie called Odyssey, which follows Natasha Flynn, a sharp-tongued, coke-fueled London estate agent who juggles debt and danger and deception. Her seemingly glossy life is flashy clothes, posh loft apartment, endless champagne, which just sounds like a lot of carbonation to me, hides a spiraling mess of broken dreams, addiction, and a business on the brink of collapse. Enter Dan and Will, smooth-talking loan sharks with a sinister edge, and their offer is easy. Get some cash if she hides a kidnapped fellow estate agent. But what follows is a wild, neon-soaked ride through London's seedy underbelly as Natasha searches for the Viking, an old ally with violent tendencies. This is directed by Gerald Johnson. How was Odyssey? Was it as good as the description, or is this one where the description was better than the movie?
I personally feel like the description was better than the movie.
That's what I was afraid
of. It didn't feel as racy as it makes it sound. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. You still have like a good cast. So Polly Maberly does a great job, and I don't negate that at all. But it just felt like it didn't stick the landing. It didn't connect the dots as well as it should have as it was going through. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of times where I just truthfully felt very bored.
Oof.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Enough said. What's your score on Odyssey?
5.
Okay. Average watch.
Yeah.
It's no fuck toys.
It's no fuck toys.
Nope.
All right. So you saw a movie that we talked about earlier, which is Friendship.
Mm-hmm.
A suburban dad named Craig has his life turned upside down by the arrival of a new neighbor. As Craig's attempts to make an adult male friend spiral out of control, their blossoming relationship threatens to ruin both of their lives. Stars Tim Robinson, Paul Rudd, Kate Mara, and directed by Andrew DeYoung.
Mm-hmm. And again, if you've seen that Netflix show that Tim Robinson does, which is I Think You Should Leave, where he does little small vignettes, it's very much like that. But if you've never seen that, which a lot of people have not, when the movie starts, you think Tim Robinson is actually going to be the normal guy, and Paul Rudd's going to be the crazy friend, right? Nope, the other way around. Tim Robinson is the star of the movie, and he gets... You can tell like he does not have a good, solid friendship in his life. So once he finally gets a friend, he does not want to let that friend go.
Oh.
And so what happens is he ends up having a moment with Paul Rudd's friends, which makes Paul Rudd go, "You're fucking loony." So, or this is not going to work as a friendship, whatever. And he basically says, "Hey, we can't be friends anymore." And then Tim Robinson just loses his goddamn mind. Craig loses his mind. And it ends up being like this just insane, very surreal kind of satire on friendship, on male friendship, on the desperate need to connect, and it affects his marriage. And there's so many just inappropriate jokes, and it goes down so many rabbit holes that, oh my God, I can't, how did we get here? How did this happen? How did this comic get made? Like it's freaking funny. It's very funny, and it's unapologetic. And also just wild. And I love the last scene in the movie. I won't tell you, once you see it, you'll get it. I just love the last scene in the movie. It's just kind of perfect. So I had a very good time with it.
Sounds very entertaining, and it does come to theaters May 9th. But what was your score for Friendship?
I give that one $8. I had a really good time. Fun. I haven't laughed that hard in a very long time. So that's saying something. All right. God damn it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. New Jack Fury. It's the 80s. Dylan Gamble's a straight edge undercover police officer. This is how they talk in this movie. Working to take down a powerful crime organization called the Style Syndicate. However, Dylan is fired before doing so. So then a year passes, and Gamble has a new life and a new girlfriend by the name of Tanisha.
You lost your accent like halfway
did.
through.
She's kidnapped by the Syndicate, and Gamble must save her. Like, that's the plot. It's directed by...
We don't care about the plot.
Lanfia Wall. Okay, here's what I'll say. I like the story. I like the characters. I like the actors. It's very Dave Chappelle skit-ish in many respects. It's kind of like sending up 80s blaxploitation comedies, and it does. There's some good humor here, but they do the weirdest goddamn thing where it's like they shoot it on a green screen and then they just superimpose bad, shitty graphics behind it. I mean, the production is kind of terrible, but I like if this was made in a real movie, I would have probably loved this, but because of how they shot it, I thought the production was terrible. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was very evident they were going for a very minimalist
so minimal
film here.
Yeah.
So minimal.
Yeah.
The humor, it was funny as hell to me. Like, there was a lot of it where I was like, oh, this is good. And it's not like super bold jokes or anything. It's just like stupid shit. I don't even know how to explain that. It is a very wild visual experience in many respects.
Yeah.
There's a lot of funny character names that
I can't even explain the visual style, but it looks like you have actors in full costume in front of, like, it looks like they're in an alley, but it's kind of like superimposed over I don't know. I can't explain it. It just looks bad. And I know it's supposed to, like, it's very low budget. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. This would have been better if it was just filmed in a real alley as opposed to whatever the hell they were doing.
The one thing that I do want to say from like a visual effects standpoint is the title cards, the title sequence at the beginning was so great.
That was the best production of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, at the beginning, they have like pictures of each character and their names come up. And it's, I don't know if it's AI art or what, but it's beautifully done. Like, it's very well done.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's pretty sharp comedy, I think.
I think this could have been a very good movie. I think go and give Lanfia Wall the money to make this movie the right way, and I think this will be a great comedy.
Absolutely.
But
my favorite was Michael Trapson.
He's like a fake Michael Jackson. He's just dancing around, moonwalking when he fights crime. Yeah. So $10 for the price of admission. What do you give New Jack Fury?
I gave it $4.
You're so
nice. It was
nice.
funny as hell.
I gave it 2. I couldn't get past the production. I just couldn't.
Sometimes I liked the production. I was like, this is weird as hell, but I'm going to go with it.
Okay.
All right.
enough.
Well, you saw a movie called Cotton Candy Bubblegum.
Mm-hmm.
After his mom gets engaged to a vindictive cop, Carter, a 21-year-old mama's boy still living at home, must secure a paid promotion at his internship by the end of the day or find a new place to live. To land the job, his boss gives him a seemingly impossible list of tasks to complete. Wow, that's a really crazy list. Get his Jeep detailed, babysit his teenage son, recover a sex tape. And if Carter can conquer this wildly chaotic day, he might be ready for the real world after all. It's directed by Jay Pinder.
Or Pinder, either one.
Jay Pinder.
Yep, one of the two.
What'd you think of Cotton Candy Bubblegum?
I thought it was likable enough. It's, I liked the lead cast. The lead cast is pretty good. It was very kind of by the numbers. I don't think there was anything particularly riveting about it. But again, I did like the cast pretty well. So I'm trying to give you a good description of exactly what it felt. Very average. Like, it wasn't too funny. It wasn't too thrilling, but I did like the cast, especially Nick Darnell, who plays Carter. There are moments where he's very early Chris Tucker, and it felt, I don't know if it was an homage or just a straight up impression, but it was pretty close. And then you have an interesting storyline with who's a masculine rapper Capital Gaines, played by R. Marcus Taylor. I liked him. I like Morgan Jay, who plays Angel, who's kind of like the best friend that keeps getting Carter into deeper shit. Love Brooklyn, who's played by Jada Page. She's just a very charming actress. I like everyone involved in the movie, and it was very enjoyable. It just doesn't do anything different or unique. So, I give it about 5.50. It's an enjoyable watch. I liked it more than Caper, but it's not something that I would come back to. Speaking of things that it doesn't sound like you would come back to, I don't know, because I kind of heard it's kind of a weird take you have on this one. Called It Ends. It Ends is the name of the movie. And it's about a group of recent grads who head out on a late night drive for grub, hoping to enjoy one final hang before their paths diverge. And instead, they accidentally turn into a never-ending 2-lane hellscape surrounded by untold horrors and cosmic forces beyond their understanding. So while they're stuck in this Jeep Cherokee and the miles keep rolling, they face a choice: embrace their new existence or fight to escape it. And it's written and directed by Alexander Alum. So tell me about this one.
Okay, so from a filmmaking standpoint, this movie is almost entirely shot within the confines of a Jeep Cherokee.
Okay.
It somehow maintains being riveting and tension-fueled throughout the entirety of the film. None of that changes any of it. The only reason, because this has a really great cast, they work really well together. I love the way that the tension is built with what is coming from the woods or what's in the woods or what's outside of these 2 lanes that we're stuck on. How does our car never run out of gas? And
that's a good question.
It just keeps going, right? And it was so damn good. I was like, how, especially for me, someone who, we kind of alluded to it earlier, really does not like slow burns. I want to get to where we're getting, okay? Mm-hmm. Somehow I'm fine being contained in this vehicle with, less than 5 individuals here talking. And that's the majority of what we have going on for the first 25 minutes. But it really sets the stage for the rest of the film, and you slowly start integrating wait, hold on a second. What actually is going on? Where are they? And how the hell are they going to get out of this? What does this mean? What the hell is going on? Period. Mm-hmm. But it falls so short with its ending. And I'm not going to say anything about it other than I was really disappointed that it had such a great peak and just fell very, very short of expectations.
Understood. So what do you give It Ends? Even though it didn't end the way you wanted. I still give it
6 because aside from the last, 10, 15 minutes, the movie is really great. I highly encourage you to still check it out, and maybe you'll have a different feeling on the ending. Maybe it's one of those endings where it's very Inception, so it's based on how you took away an ending.
Sure.
But it felt like the movie just ended, is how I felt.
Ironic? You decide.
Ironic. Who knows?
Another movie we saw, Summer of '69, and it's not based on the Bryan Adams song. Very disappointed by that. Summer of '69. Nobody? Okay. All right, well, Abby Flores spends her high school days playing video games and fantasizing about her forever crush, Max Warren. So when she discovers that Max is finally single in the last week of school, Abby knows she must do whatever it takes to land the guy of her dreams before it's too late. And you know what he likes to do? She finds out he loves the 69. That's where the title comes from. So Abby makes the decision to enlist the help of a stripper named Santa Monica, who is fighting to save the club that she works at. And she's played by Chloe Feynman from Saturday Night Live. She does fantastic Britney Spears impressions and a lot of other impressions. She's a very funny, talented comedian. And so it stars Chloe Feynman and Sam Morales. And it's written and directed by Jillian Bell. If you know her, she's done a lot of comedic work. Now, I am a student of the sex comedy, if you will, Amanda. I grew up in an era where sex comedies were prominent. And I know that they have kind of fallen by the wayside. This is very much a throwback to 80s and 90s sex comedies, which I like a lot. Mm-hmm. Did you enjoy this? Was it too far? Was it too outlandish for you?
Honestly, I don't feel like it was outlandish at all.
Me either.
It felt like it was very PG-13, Like, there's
Whoa.
no way this
I don't know about all that.
gets a rated R rating.
I don't know about all that. I mean, the whole movie's about 69ing. So
Yeah, but I don't know. Everybody knows what 69ing is by that time they're 13. So
Jesus. All right.
yeah, it's just there's the internet. What do you expect?
Okay.
It was fun. It was fun as hell. It's not like it does anything that's incredibly new. We've seen a movie very similar to this before. It's very much let me try to help a different way of somebody going from 0 to 100.
0 to hero, man. 0 to hero.
Yeah.
Yep.
In terms of them trying to capture the love of their life, and they're in high school, and oh my gosh, I have to do it. I have to win them over.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I really liked, though, is it wasn't at all about changing the way that Abby looked or who she was as a person, so much as it was making her grow confidence.
Absolutely.
Because if you think about She's All That, that's one that I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
She's All That. It's all about transforming her to look completely different than she does. Like, you can be prettier, you can be more beautiful. In this movie, it's like you just have to have confidence in yourself and you're going to be just fine. And I loved that was kind of like the message, and you see this friendship grow, and you get to kind of dive into how bitchy and sweet women can be to each other, the dynamic of friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And the sex part was just the surface level comedy, which I liked, that there was so much more to the story beneath that.
And can I ask you, I will say, Sam Morales, who plays Abby, was wonderful. I thought she was very charming, very funny, kind of new to the scene, if you will. But Chloe Fineman, I've been a fan of hers because I love her skits on Saturday Night Live. You don't really know her, though. So
I just know her from a couple of her SNL skits.
Did she impress you, like, in terms of her comedic ability? Like, did you walk out going, okay, I'm a fan of hers now?
What I liked is that SNL is very satirical, ridiculous comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's a very, very different comedy than this coming of age type of comedy in movies. So for me, it was, okay, you have both the satirical, very choppy humor, but you also have the skill set to hold the screen, be funny in your simple deliverance, and kind of minimalize that a little bit. So it just showed she has more range, in my opinion. And maybe it's the reverse. Maybe if you are able to do that slapstick, ridiculous SNL type comedy, then you're inherently good at doing the minimalist comedy of movies. But either way, I liked her and Sam. They had a really great dynamic and relationship with each other. Their chemistry was really good. And I like that they had kind of its own little SNL skit built into it that they reference back to at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I did too. And it's going to Hulu. I don't remember what date it is, but it's going to Hulu. I had a really good time with this. This was very funny. I'm a Chloe Fineman fan. She went right next to us. Oh, delightful. And
she danced. She was so cute.
She saw somebody recognize somebody, and they said hi or whatever, and then she just started swirling around and dancing. It was really cute. I was like, oh, she is the life of the party. She is the life of the party. Absolutely. It was a very good film, very charming, coming of age sex comedy, whatever, but I had a really good time with it. And I recommend it. I think it's very, very funny. And even though it ends and it's just like, wait, what is happening? I didn't care. I just didn't care. It was still a good time. So yeah, I gave it 8.50. I give it 8. So we both enjoyed it. We both loved it. Last
it felt
one.
like my book smart of the year.
Yeah. Oh, There you go. Okay. Mm-hmm. One more movie.
All right.
You left.
Together.
You bailed on me. And so I went and saw it. So we didn't see this together.
So single?
I saw this single.
Individual. So together, years into their relationship, Tim and Millie, who's played by Dave Franco and Allison Brie, find themselves at a crossroads as they move to the country, abandoning all that is familiar in their lives except each other. With tensions already flaring, a nightmarish encounter with a mysterious unnatural force that threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. Starring Dave Franco and Allison Brie, directed by Michael Shanks. Together was the one that I feel like you went through great lengths to make sure you got to see at some point during the festival. Did it live up to those hopes and dreams?
Not probably to the level I had them in my head, because I was pretty stoked for that one. But it was a very good horror film. It's very unique, very original. Alison Brie and Dave Franco are a real life couple, so I think that's kind of funny because the whole movie is about.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, they're truly together, and they, in fact, if you saw, what was the movie they did, The Rental, where Dave Franco directed it and she starred in it.
Yeah.
They're married. They were married before then.
What?
So yeah, they're a real life couple. And the whole movie is about couples and strained relationships. And are they the right matches for each other? Are they, and as they come in contact with this affliction, which basically means they start growing closer together in a very physical, painful way. And it turns into a body horror thriller. So, the kind of thing where fingernails might get pulled out, that kind of body horror, like really painful shit. And as it goes through there, it just they get more vulnerable and their relationship gets more explosive and painful, as it were, as they're trying to unravel exactly what's going on. It's a very good film, not a great film. I think the ending is very interesting. There's one effect that totally doesn't work and kind of hurts the ending a little bit, which is why it's a 7 for me.
Oh no.
It's not bad, but it's not good either. Now, when it's all said and done, I think it works. But unfortunately, there is one effect that kind of takes you out of the movie, and I don't like that, especially at the very end. Like, that's when the payoff has to land, you know what I mean? And that's a distraction. But overall, it's a very good film, very original, very unique, and I really appreciated how Michael Shanks directed this. Very tightly paced, very taut. So I give it $7.
Well, kind of glad that we didn't see that together.
Oof, I see what you did there. All right. Well, we are through the frickin' movies. My God, that was a long time. But there's a couple of things left. 2 awards from us. Okay. Best overall performance from the festival.
Michaela McManus in Redux.
Okay.
She carries the movie, so it'd be hard not to give it to her.
Oh, you could just not do it.
Wrong.
Okay, fair enough.
I didn't see yours, and you didn't see mine. So Who knows who's right?
That's true. Mine was Rosamund Pike in Hollow Road. Phenomenal. She's just,
I love her.
She crushes it in everything she does.
Yeah.
All right. So your favorite all-around film, both popular and indie. Go ahead, Amanda. What do you got?
Popular is going to have to be Another Simple Favor.
Okay.
Unless Summer of '69. Does that count as popular?
Did you like it more than Another Simple Favor?
I think I did.
I mean, it's got a lot of names in it. It's going on Hulu, so I would...
Oh. Okay, so I'm going to throw Summer of '69.
Okay.
That one made me laugh a lot. And then Redux is my indie film.
Okay.
What about yours?
I'm going to say Rivals of Mziah King. And I'm sure I said
See,
it
you
wrong.
can't even say
I
it
can't
right.
Either. It's a really stupid name.
I kept thinking it was a typo. I was like, oh,
I just don't know how you have.
Letter.
I don't know how you have Matthew McConaughey and not say it's a popular kind of movie. We didn't get to see The Accountant
And
2.
Kurt Russell.
And Kurt Russell. We didn't get to see The Accountant 2. And I think we should point that out.
Yeah,
that did come out
is
as well.
true. We need to mention that.
And I heard great things about that. So I just want to say, like, it's just a matter of we couldn't get in because, a change we'll talk about in a second. And Hollow Road was my favorite indie. I just, those 2 movies really, really took me by surprise. But another special shout out for Age of Disclosures too, because I now believe in aliens. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about what the change was. We alluded to it at the beginning, didn't want to talk to it then. So there's the way that the festival works is they have what's called express passes, right? So if you go and you pay and you get your badge, your film and TV badge or platinum badge or whatever the badge is, you get what's called an express pass, and you get X number of those per day. I think it's like 4 a day, whatever. So what those do is if you get an express pass for a movie, you get a guaranteed spot in the line as long as you're there 30 minutes before it starts. So which means you can get there 45 minutes before a movie starts and you're going to get in. You can't do that if you get in the regular line. You're there 45 minutes, you're never getting into whatever it is you're trying to see, right? Would you agree with that generally?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. All right. So they made a change this year so that if you have a platinum badge, which is the next step up from film and TV badge, we have film and TV badges. Where there's press, so I understand, like, they're already giving us kind of a gift, you know what I mean? So I'm not, beggars can't be choosers and all that. But if you have a platinum badge, which is $600 extra, if we wanted to pay $600, we could have and gotten that. Then
each, so $1,200
each, right? Because you reserve these express passes the day before the movie. So if it's going to play Friday night at 7 p.m., you would do it Thursday morning, the day before morning, right at 9 a.m. They moved that if you have a platinum badge to 2 days before. So what ended up happening is, if you have a platinum badge, you will get all of the express passes are taken by the time it gets to the other badges. So,
and that's not just for like the big movies. That's
no,
for
it's
even
for
the
everything.
indie films.
It's for everything. It happened to us throughout the week. I think all told, where I usually get multiple express passes per day, I got, I think, a total of 4 or 5.
I had festival. 2.
Yeah. Just couldn't get them.
Out of 1 week.
And it's not fair. The hard part is like, you're trying to see as many movies as you can for this podcast and other things. Like, you're trying coverage, right? You're trying to do coverage and also planning out your day. It makes it very, very hard because you end up seeing less. Like, we actually went more days this year and we saw less movies because of that, because we had to wait in line more. And I don't mind waiting in line. It's not what the issue is. It just seems like an unfair advantage, I think. But I get it. It's about money. And that's an incentive to a
My
platinum
thing
badge.
with it is that South by has always been a very inclusive, near equal playing field for press and individuals who are fans. And the way this changed made it so even if you're there as press doing coverage, you still hardly have the ability to get into all of the things that really need coverage and the indie films, no less all of the indie films. Mm-hmm. And it makes it so that way you're able to go to less. And it really just, I think also the timing of how it rolled out, we had some conversations with people in line too. A couple in particular that we just happened to keep running into like every few movies.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were stalkers. We don't know.
Loved them.
But
either way, Elizabeth, shout out. How you doing?
Yeah, they were so sweet. I loved them.
Very sweet. I wish we had a stalker. That'd be cool.
But they were actually platinum badge holders last year because they didn't feel like they were getting the value for what they were paying in difference to the film and TV badge. They went down because you always want to buy it during the festival for the next year because then it's significantly discounted. So they did that. And then like shortly before the festival, all of this was announced that this was a change. So people were already kind of like, well, you didn't give a fair opportunity for us to know what we were getting into. And I think that's consistent for everyone. It just feels like it was like a rushed decision that didn't think about all of the roll down effects and address them properly for it to be entirely successful.
But I will say, I talked to Elizabeth, the last movie I saw, Summer of '69 with you. She was in line. You were in a different part of the line, and she was in line with me. And she actually said that they did purchase platinum for the next year. So it did have the desired effect for the festival, which it sold more platinum badges.
100%.
And again, it's just something I could have planned differently for if I knew it a little much earlier, because it really does affect how your schedule's made. So I'm definitely not saying, I'm not trying to throw shade on South by. I think they've done wonderful by us over the years. We've been going for over a decade. I really appreciate all the press accreditation that they've given us and everything else over the years. And I've always loved this festival. It's my favorite film festival. I'm just saying it definitely made for a big change in how we do scheduling. So that was disappointing, but overall I still had a great time. Still saw a lot of wonderful movies. God, we saw over 25 titles still, and had a lot of great conversations with the fans. Any thoughts on the festival or the experience as we close this up?
No, I'm just curious what the next one will hold. How does South by continue to one-up itself, you know?
Oh, it'll keep doing it. Were you disappointed you didn't get to see John Bernthal? Because he was at the Accountant, too.
I was sad. But, the way I thought about it is I'm just going to try to focus on seeing movies that people won't be able to see right away or don't have easy access to seeing. So that way we can cover those and get those names out there. And if I hadn't done that, who knows what else I would have missed with something like Redux that ended up being my favorite.
Yeah, with titles that we kept having trouble with, like Redux. You're like, is that Redux, or Redo, or what are we doing here? Fuck Toys, I kept calling Fuck Boys. I thought it was a different movie entirely.
Yes, you did.
So, yeah, it was fun. The Rivals of Umziah King, my God, why with that title? Just why? Where's that? I got to look into the history of the name. There's got to be a lot more to it. Overall, great experience. Some wonderful films. I didn't have many bad experiences, which is always a plus. So I thank you guys for listening all the way through, and I hope this has been fun. And thanks for going with me, Amanda. We had a really good time.
Thanks for having me, Aaron, and thanks to South by Southwest for having both of us. It is always great to be able to cover this festival, and it definitely still is set apart from others. So go check it out. SXSW.com. That's a lot of movies to look for, and now I hope you have a few things to keep an eye out for. Again, keep in mind, everyone, that many of these films don't have a release date yet, so you might want to check IMDb, but you can check our post on The Hollywood Outsider so you can see all the titles that we talked about and the descriptions in that post. Thanks again for listening. Everyone, if you want to hear more behind the scenes and inside South by, go to patreon.com, where our uncut, unedited episode 600, which was the big hit with Patreon supporters, is now available. You can sign up to support us monthly, or you can just buy that one episode. So either way, whatever you want to do. But be sure to subscribe, tell your friends about The Hollywood Outsider, and remember that the next time you head to a theater, which is the best place to see a movie, buy popcorn.